MTSH 1. Wave Mission. Darkness, seemingly never-ending darkness. Naruto couldn't open his eyes. He felt so tired, exhausted. If only he could slip into unconsciousness and let the darkness fade from the forefront of his mind. "Excuse me." The voice echoed through his head, surprisingly light and feminine. "Wake up, sir." Was he asleep? He didn't feel asleep. Naruto summoned whatever energy he could find in his to open his eyes. He blinked as he awoke, the feeling of being shaken startling him. It was suddenly bright to his eyes, so bright that it burned his eyes, forcing the women above him to be shrouded in unclarity. He blinked again, letting his eyes focus. Her eyes were a shade of brown that he'd never seen before. Her eyes were a hickory as rich as the earth's soil, stained with the color of hot chocolate on a cold, winter night that wraps around you like a blanket, engulfs you in its warmth and makes you feel at home. Who are you?" Naruto stammered, trying to sit up before he ended up passing out again. I. Her cheeks colored a deep pink, reminding him of a girl he grew up with. "I'm sorry. Let me start over. My name is Haku. Who are you?" "Me?" He found himself flustered, unsure what to make of this girl. Never before had someone actually asked him who he was. "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, future Hokage of Konohagakure, and I wait." He scratched the back of his head. "Why are you all the way out here in the middle of the forest?" She gave him a soft smile, and he detected a hint of sadness. "I'm collecting herbs." He hadn't noticed the wicker basket bustling with plant. "Why? You seem to have plenty already." "Someone important to me was injured, and I'm just getting what I need to heal them." "Oh, I'm sorry that they're hurt." Naruto bit his lower lip. "Naruto-kun," Haku smiled. "What are you doing out here? I'm sure there's someone who's missing you." He frowned. "I'm training, or I was. I have to grow strong to protect the people I care about. But honestly, I don't really know where we are at the moment." "You're in a forest," Haku stated with a straight face. "I know that much, but I've never been out here before." Naruto watched as she suddenly erupted into giggles. The sound of her laughter, bright and cheerful, was like dandelions on summer days. The birds that had previously been silent started to chirp and tweet happily, as though the heavenly sound of her voice was infectious. He couldn't stop the smile on his face. His heart felt light, as if it had been waiting for this girl to come to him and laugh. She stood, causing the hem of her kimono to catch the small surge of wind around them. It flew up, revealing her striped panties to him. He moved quickly, reflexes already trained, and threw his arms around her waist to try and feel the fabric down. It only serves to pull her down on top of him, her kimono coming undone and pushed loose enough so that he could see the swell of her breasts, inches from his face. Her legs were settled around him, forcing her to press against him as she fixed her kimono back to its original state, though her cheeks were flared as red as Naruto's. Nothing had ever gone right in his life, and today wasn't the day that it would. Haku gasped and quickly scrambled away from him, the tops of her shoulders bare. She quickly pulled the material back in place. Suddenly Naruto felt something come in contact with his jaw, and his body went flying halfway across the clearing. Black covered his vision for the briefest of seconds before being replaced with a deep red and pink. "How dare you take advantage of a girl, you idiot?" There was a visual tick on her brow. "How can I call scum like you my teammate?" "Sakura-san," Naruto growled, feeling rage begin to boil in his stomach. He could feel his features darkening. "What the fuck was that for?" "Because you were trying to take advantage of her." She stuck her nose in the air, eyes burning bright. "Pervert. Do not dare assume that you know anything about me, you wretch." His voice was full of a malice that he didn't know he possessed. Her damned kimono blew in the wind and I fixed it. She fell. "Did you hear me?" FELL fell. "It's true," Haku peeped in quietly. Naruto glanced down at Haku, cringing as Sakura stomped angrily away, no doubt to go and complain to Kakashi-sensei. He sighed. Haku's eyes met him, filled with sorrow, and he realized that she understood the loneliness he felt. It was set in his mind that he had to save her. One way or another he would save her. No one's missing me. I'm just an annoying orphan. Naruto waved to her, smiling sad. I'll see you later, Haku-chan. I hope you can come back out here sometime and we can talk. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. Naruto turned to walk back to Tanzuna's home, feeling the deep pit in his stomach groan with each step. He would have hell to pay if Kakashi listened to Sakura. He wanted to believe that Kakashi wouldn't, but he honestly wasn't certain. Sakura would spin the story and make him seem like the bad guy. The house came into view, and he hesitated, but eventually pushed through the door, leaving his shoes in the front hallway. He really couldn't make himself move into the rest of the house, knowing for certain that he would be in trouble for no reason. He could admit that it was stupid to train all night and fall asleep, but he didn't do anything else wrong. The front door opened behind him, allowing Kakashi and Sasuke to enter. Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat. Kakashi-sensei, can I talk to you in private? I need to talk to you. Of course. Kakashi ignored Sasuke's disgruntled look and led Naruto into one of the bedrooms, locking the door behind him in the process. Sensei, let me be honest here. Naruto sat down on the bed, looking up at his teacher. May I ask you a question? Ask away. Kakashi replied in a relaxed manner. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoy your teaching. I've learned a lot, but why are we even a team? All you do is train Sasuke and forget to teach me and Sakura-san. The only real training we get is when you can include us with training Sasuke. His voice grew louder as he spoke. Why can't you train us too? You're supposed to train me. You're supposed to be there for me. Do you really hate me too? Am I that much of a nuisance? What did I do to make you hate me? Naruto, listen to me. Kakashi touched his shoulder. Let me tell you something. Sasuke was selected for my team because of his Sharingan. The only reason I have you three is because of the Uchiha blood that runs through his veins. Whenever he unlocks his Sharingan, I'm the only one who can train him to use it in the right way. I'm sorry that you feel like I have failed you. Believe me when I say that I want all of my students to do well. I don't hate you, Naruto. I actually quite like you. You have potential, determination. That's more than most ninjas your age. If you feel that I have failed you as a teacher, I apologize. This is new for me as well. I became an UMBU captain at 13. I never thought that I would become an instructor. Why, sensei? Naruto was almost tearing up now. Why did you do this? Why did you become a sensei? Well, that's the complicated part. A few years ago, the Hokage decided that I would be suited for this role. I took it, of course, but no one was the right fit. Then the Uchiha massacre happened and Sasuke became the last heir to the Uchiha clan. Since you've been so honest with me, let me be honest with you. I originally applied for a much different team. I wanted you, Hinata Hyuga and Shino Aburame. The council stepped in and decided that I needed to have Sasuke so that I could train him to use his ability. I think I can forgive you. Naruto bowed his head. But I can't stay on this team. Sakura accused me of... Never mind that. Sensei, I can't keep doing this. I don't care if I have to go back to the academy. I can't stand any more missions with Sasuke-san and Sakura-san. I understand. Maybe we can talk about this when we get back to the village. Perhaps we can find some middle ground. It's also because, well, the old man gave me this before we left. He said it was time that I learned. Naruto handed him a scroll, the elegant design of the Uzumaki clan marking it as his own. Kakashi took the golden scroll with shaky hands, feeling the familiar twists of the engravings and the fragile parchment. He let it unroll him his hands, heart hurting at how short the message seemed. To Naruto, my sweet son, my name is Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. If the village followed my wishes, then you grew up healthy and happy, revered as the village hero. You must be old enough to receive this letter. I have so much I want to say to you, but I don't have the time. If you're reading this, it means that I have passed. There are a few things that you need to know. The Kyuubi is not dead. It is a manifestation of chakra. Therefore, it cannot be destroyed. My plan is to seal her within you if anything goes wrong. I'll understand if you hate me for that, but know that I only did it because I know you will be strong like your mother. Your mother was the previous container for the beast. I think something is going to go wrong tonight. I'm afraid you'll grow up without either of your parents, but know that we love you. Kakashi, my last remaining student, is much too young to take care of you, so don't hold that against him, if you know him. I have to go now, but one last thing. The bottom of the scroll is a seal that holds the key to our family homes. It's located in the forest behind the Hokage monument. The Hokage will know where it is. Remember that your mother and I loved you more than anything. Love, your dad Minato. Kakashi looked back at Naruto, unshed tears in his eyes. Naruto knew what Kakashi was thinking. There's more on the back, sensei. Naruto. My name is Kushina, but I'm sure you know that. I hope that you've heard more about me other than being Konoha's Red Death. I hope you're happy. Your father has already left to go seal the Kyuubi, and I'm fading quickly. I have a few things to explain to you. First is that you're engaged to a young woman. Her name will be Hinata Hyuga. I wonder if you know her. Her mother was my best friend, and I hope that friendship is passed to you. I haven't had a chance to meet her yet because she won't be here for a few months, but with Hitomi as a mother, she will be the sweetest girl you ever meet. You'll be a good match. The council may try and enact the CRA, which would force you into multiple marriages, but let's hope not. You are the last of my clan, which would mean that you have a bloodline that you will need to master. You should have my chakra binds, which I'm sure you'll figure out. Can bind anything that uses chakra. I have to go now. I love you so much. Remember that a girl is always right. Always. I love you, Naruto. Love, Mom. I remember this. I remember your mother writing this just before. Kakashi seemed taken aback, almost as if he were unable to think after reading the scroll. I'm sorry, Naruto. I was 13 then. I was in the Umbu and I couldn't. Sensei, I don't mind. I can't change the past, and my life isn't awful. Naruto countered. Kakashi swallowed. Naruto-kun, did the Hokage happen to say why he gave you that letter? Your father and mother had many enemies that would have jumped at the chance to end their line. Did he think you can defend yourself? Yeah, the old man said I needed to know sooner than later. Something about needed to know soon. Naruto bit his lip, a surge of sadness hitting him. Kakashi's hand brushed his shoulder. Let's go eat. I'm sure that Tsunami-chan has a wonderful meal cooked for us. They stood up and Kakashi pushed him out of the room. Naruto smiled. I'm starving, sensei. I'm going to eat 10 bowls of whatever she made. Tempt. In the late morning, Naruto woke to find the house practically empty, except for Tsunami and Inari. Tsunami had handed him it as he made his way groggily into the kitchen. The note had said to meet his team at the bridge as soon as possible. That prompted him into running upstairs to get his weapons. It took him maybe 5 minutes to be completely dressed and ready. It wasn't until he made his way down the stairs a second time that he realized something was amiss. Naruto always followed his gut, and something wasn't right. His adrenaline peaked as he crept down the staircase, pausing as the voices of men spoke. He couldn't quite make out the words, though. He looked around the corner, into the kitchen, finding 2 men standing over Inari and Tsunami. Inari was holding a knife towards the men, who didn't seem to think of him as a threat. They both laughed. Let's just grab the women and kid and get out of here. Do you think Gato would mind if we killed the kid? He's pretty annoying. Inari made a swipe with the kitchen knife, coming nowhere close to the men. No, you're not going to touch my mother. The taller of the men pulled out his sword. I'll get rid of the pest. No, you won't. Naruto pressed his hands together, quickly creating 2 shadow clones. You won't touch either of them. The clones charged at the 2 men, dodging a few swiped, but eventually able to punch the men unconscious. Surprised is really the two weren't ninjas, just average thugs. It was relieving. Naruto-kun. Tsunami pulled the boy into a hug. Naruto pulled away and took the knife from Inari. I'm proud of you for protecting your mother, but I want both of you to go to a friend's home and stay safe. I have a feeling that we're going to have to fight for the bridge today. Tsunami wiped away tears from her eyes. Naruto, please save my father. I will, he replied. They do say that the hero always shows up at the last moment, and it looks like I'll be the hero this time. With a wave to the two civilians, Naruto sprinted away from the house, down the pathways and towards the almost completed bridge. The road seemed much too slow, and Naruto jumped into the trees, moving almost double his previous speed. Of course, he arrived at the perfect moment. Sasuke was laying still, needles sticking out from his entire body, blood oozing and pooling beneath him. He couldn't tell if the raven was still breathing or not. The worst part was he found himself indifferent. His eyes darted towards Sakura, who was trying to break through the chakra barrier surrounding him. Across the bridge, Naruto could see Kakashi once again battling with Zabuza. Both were moving slow as if they had been fighting for a while. They were probably running low of chakra. He quickly located Tazuna, but the blue spark of the Chidori brought his eyes back to Kakashi. There was no way he could help his teacher. He paused and glanced back at his teammates. He could only help one of them. If he couldn't save Kakashi, then he sure as hell would save his team. Naruto sprinted towards the wall of mirrors, hearing Sakura's cry. You have to save him, Naruto. Please. His stomach started to sink as he looked into the barrier. Sasuke hadn't moved, and the blood seemed to grow. Then, suddenly the other boy stood, only to be struck down with more needles. Naruto took a step back, pausing for a moment to try and understand the jutsu. 2 more times, and Naruto found himself able to catch the glimpse of the form that kept jumping from mirror to mirror. Sasuke fell again, and that time Naruto knew for certain that Sasuke was dying. The woman paused over Sasuke and spoke. You insolent child. If only you had listened to my master and handed over the bridge builder. I regret to have to kill such a valuable man. Haku-chan. Naruto yelled, apparently loud because said girl looked up, her eyes as empty as the day they had met. At this point her mask was shattered, leaving only her pale skin untouched. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. Her voice was nowhere near as warm as when he had met her. A searing pain ripped through his chest as he felt betrayal. Tears began to blur his vision. As he yelled, his voice cracked. Haku-chan, stop. I don't want to hurt Y-. He rushed through the barrier, feeling a rage building under his skin, almost as if chakra was completely enveloping him. Then the world went black. Ch2. It was startlingly quiet when Naruto became conscious. The grass beneath his cheek felt cool and smooth, yet he couldn't feel even the barest hint of wind, nor could he hear the chirping of birds. It was as if he was in a bubble immune to the outside world. He slowly opened his eyes, blinking as the sunlight burned. There were trees about 20 feet in front of his. The air around him felt stagnant and warm. His skin felt sweaty. His arms were bound together behind him. Naruto could hear soft breathing coming from somewhere, but he wasn't exactly sure where. He tried to sit up to get a better look around him, but the chakra constraints on his arms forced him back to his side anytime he tried to move. He pulled at the binds, quickly realizing that the chakra was surrounding ninja wire, causing a warm trickle of blood to coat his wrists. He turned his head, looking up at the clear blue sky, not a cloud to be seen. He sighed in frustration, taking all of his effort to flip himself over, making the wire cut tighter into his wrists. Fuck! He bit his lip in pain. His muscles were beginning to cramp from his position, and his wrists burned with a horrible pain from the wire. His back ached too. The pit of his stomach fell as he realized the situation. Years and years of drunken abuse and humiliation passed through his mind, though none of it made him feel this terrible. Disorientated, he spotted 2 figures ahead of him, shrouded in the shade of the trees. He could make out a cloud-like pattern on their cloak. As he watched them, more details slowly came out, like the red eyes of one of them or the giant sword behind the other. The first voice he could make out was gruff and angry. "Why can't we just take care of the Kyuubi now, Itachi?" "Shut up, Kisame." The other voice was smooth, controlled, and terrifying. It sent shivers down Naruto's spine. "Our leader sent us to gauge the vessel's power, not unseal it." "Itachi, the boy will just grow more powerful. We should unseal it now." "Enough," Itachi cut. "You are annoying me. Our leader has reason as to why we cannot seal it." "Shut your mouth." "I insist," Kisame challenged. Itachi practically growled. "I was there when the beast wrought havoc on the hidden leaf, Kisame. I know its power, but if you need to contact the rest, do so." "Why do I have to do all of the work?" Kisame called. "You're a bastard, Itachi." "Idiot, I have other things to attend to. Unless you wish to incur my wrath, I would ask you to do as I say." "Whatever, Itachi. Stop being an ass." "HN." The man approached him, red eyes pulling him into a darkness. Maybe it wasn't quite darkness, though. It was more like a damp dungeon with no exit. Tempt. Haku's eyes widened as she saw Naruto running towards her, a look she had never seen before gracing his features. He looked angry. She let her eyes close and took a deep breath, preparing for the blow of his hand. Several seconds passed before she opened her eyes. From the corner of her eye, she saw two dark figures carrying what could only be Naruto, his orange jumpsuit sticking out. Naruto was gone. Sasuke was unconscious and Sakura was holding his body. Had they not noticed Naruto disappear? Haku took one last look at her master and sprinted off into the forest. Her heart was beating at an unrealistic pace as she moved towards the tree line. They had disappeared from her sight, but she was an excellent tracker. She couldn't be sure why she had chased down the shinobi. She would never know. If someone were to ask her 10 years down the line, Haku would only be able to shrug. She had no reason other than the feeling in her gut. Her back thumped into a tree, quietly enough to avoid being detected. In the clearing near her she watched, trying her best not to breath. "Why have I been summoned? Itachi." Kisame, a shimmering figure, stood menacingly above Naruto's still form. He was the leader, then. She wasn't sure what made him look like a leader. Perhaps it was just his tone or his posture. But she knew that neither man would deny him. The dark-haired man stood. "Kisame seems to believe that she should unseal the child now, so that the child will not become more of an irritation later on. Since he decided to capture the Jinchuriki, Kisame insists that I call you." The man smiled and nodded. "I see. We shall go along with Kisame-kun's plan for the ritual. Prepare the boy." Several more figures appeared in that same shimmery presence. Then group began going through seals. Figure. She lost the series as it sped up. The signs were too fast for her to keep up with. She stood in awe as the group went through the seals, never missing a beat. That was until a bright light exploded from Naruto's stomach. It was so bright that she had to look away, in fear that it would blind her. The light shot into the sky, growing until it completely enveloped Naruto. Then the light started to quake and seep red chakra. This wouldn't be good. She closed her eyes again as the air filled with an unsavory atmosphere. It was sinister and overwhelming with its power. It was something unnatural. She had to do something, anything to stop this madness. Naruto had been the first person since Zabuza to be nice to her, and Haku was loyal to a fault. Her friends would forever be people she cared about. "Naruto-kun," she roared, sprinting through the clearing with senbon in her hands. She threw them at the two men, not watching as they hit. She knew that they were on track to hit where she aimed. Just as the senbon would strike the men, the light coursing through Naruto pulsed and made the entire area shadowed in brightness. A blink of the eye and the two men were no longer there, and the images of the rest faded. The light focused back on the blonde. Haku didn't know how long it lasted, half a minute or several hours, but soon it faded to leave Naruto unbound. Her eyes were on him, tears seeming to prick at the corner of her eyes. Haku-chan. His blue eyes widen, voice hoarse. "You're okay." She paused 50 feet away, staring into his eyes that seemed to be as endless as the cloudless sky. Then her eyes traveled to his side. Beside him sat a girl that Haku swore wasn't there before. Naruto had been alone before. She was about the same age as Naruto, with red hair that looked like it had just been brushed and cleaned. She hadn't been there before, and that made Haku feel awful. She gazed at Naruto, who turned his head to look at the girl. Her eyes were blood red. Naruto flinched as he saw her. Haku knew it wasn't because the girl was ugly. It was quite the opposite. The girl had pearly, pale skin that set off the darkness of her hair and eyes. Her hair wasn't the ginger color everyone thought of. Instead, it looked like her hair had been colored to look like a pool of blood. Then her eyes found the girl's extra extremities. She had fox ears atop her head with 9 swishing tails behind her. It was then that she noticed that the girl looked anything but malicious. Her eyes were set apart and wide. Her nose was pointed up into a soft button nose that only served to make her look more innocent, and her clothing was little more than rags. Haku briefly wondered if the sudden appearance of the girl meant that she was a goddess of sorts. That though had been quickly thrown aside when the girl suddenly bounced, flinging her arms out with excitement. Haku felt her heart skip a beat as the girl turned to Naruto, looking unsure of the world around her. She sprinted forward, fearing for her newest friend. The girl started to speak, slow, as if each syllable felt odd in her mouth. "Naruto-kun, I am the Kyuubi no Yoko. Before you freak out and attack me, understand that I mean you no harm." Naruto looked at her with wide eyes. His eyes met Haku's, and she knew for certain that he was afraid, shocked even. Haku knew that the girl meant that she was a demon, but she had never heard of the Kyuubi no Yoko, though that just confused Haku more. The girl had a medium-pitch voice that was filled with deep affection. The Kyuubi seemed almost kind. "Naruto," a hushed voice came from behind. Haku turned to see a woman, hair a bright burgundy. She looked much scarier than the so-called demon. Haku frowned as the woman broke out into a big smile with tears welling up in her eyes. "What?" Naruto jumped, eyes wavering between the two red heads. "I'm your mom, you know?" "Mom!" Naruto hopped up and ran towards her. "Is that really you?" She didn't answer, instead choosing to let her tears spill over as she tackled him in a hug. "Do not fear." The girl had moved beside her with a speed Haku didn't catch. "Naruto-kun only wants your safety. When he offers, you should come to Konoha with him, Haku-chan." Haku flinched when the girl slung a lazy arm over her shoulder, a gesture of friendship. Zabuza had never once touched her, and she found that the light embrace felt right. "Oh my!" Haku pulled away, looked frantically in a circle. "Zabuza! I forgot about Zabuza." "Naruto-kun," Kyuubi called to the pair. "We need to get back to your team." He wiped his eyes and nodded. "All right." They headed back out of the forest, unquestioning the two newest companions. Haku couldn't make the knot in her stomach go away. Hopefully Zabuza would forgive her insubordination. Her eyes trailed to the older woman who was apparently Naruto's mother. Haku barely remembered her own mother. The strongest memory of her mother had been death. Kushina groaned almost inaudibly as they sprinted through the trees back to the bridge. Haku wondered if were because of a headache or muscle strain. Even though the woman sounded like she was in pain, she also looked overjoyed. Haku felt confused. Then there had been the girl who claimed to be a demon. Kyuubi no Yoko. Haku could see the youth pouring from her as she ran, seemingly without any issues. It was as if the girl wasn't tethered to the earth. She leapt and ran without breaking a sweat. Haku found her less odd than the older woman though. Haku wished with all of her soul that she could stop thinking about Naruto and the people surrounding him and instead focus on Zabuza. The man was what gave her life. When everyone wanted her dead, he came and let her live. She was his weapon. Nothing more, nothing less. It wasn't even that she hated Zabuza. It was quite the contrary. If anything, Haku found that she would have given her own life if Zabuza had so much asked. Then Naruto came and made her question what life could be. He gave her choices. She was Zabuza's weapon, not Naruto's tool. Haku knew that if it came to it, she would choose Zabuza. Naruto arrived at the bridge battle seconds before everyone else. Sasuke and Sakura cowered by Tenzuna watching Kakashi go toe-to-toe with the Zabuza. He watched as Kakashi's lightning blade impale the chest of Zabuza. Then he heard a feminine gasp behind him and Haku raced past him. A blur of blue. The startling cry that left her throat as she approaches sounded like an animal, not a human. The sound of her knees hitting pavement seemed to echo through the quiet battlefield. The sobs started when she pulled the limp form of Zabuza into her lap. That was when the snow started to fall. So, the world-renowned Zabuza was taken down by a few brats. Gato appeared at the end of the bridge with over a dozen men trailing behind him. "Attack my minions!" Naruto jumped down from the tree limb and threw a punch straight for Gato. He was intercepted by a man wielding a lance. He wavered as he created shadow clones. His chakra was weak, much weaker than he ever remembered it being. It was unsteady. That didn't stop Naruto from outmaneuvering the untrained army. A swift kick to a hand could stop the arc of a sword. A quick punch could incapacitate some of them. He was a ninja, and these men had no idea how to use their chakra. From across the battlefield, he spied the Kyuubi join in the battle. She had stolen a sword from one victim and used it to effectively slice through man after man. She spat fire at a group that ran at her, not even pausing as they burned and screamed. Her kitsune parts were hidden. Naruto was worried when he saw her approach Kakashi, weapon dripping with blood. He couldn't do anything to stop her as he barely dodged a fist, twisting and jumping to counterattack. Then he realized what she was doing. Her hands thrummed with soft green chakra when she leaned over Kakashi. She closed her eyes, letting her hands pass along his skin until her chakra found a part that it could heal. He saw his mother standing behind her, nodding. Naruto didn't watch her long, because he had to keep his attention on the men trying to kill him. Weapons fell on the bridge as the last of the army fell. Soon the battle had come to an end, and Gato's reign was no more. When the battle was completely over and Gato finished, the group silently made their way back to the village and into Tezuna's home. If Tsunami had noticed the 3 new companions, she didn't mention it. Soon supper was ready and the group had to move into the living room to be able to eat near each other without trampling over their plates. It was there that the Kyuubi and Hako sat next to each other, the closest to the door. Naruto sat near them but closer to Kushina and Kakashi. Sasuke and Sakura had yet to say a single word since the battle. Sasuke's scowl seemed to deplete the room of any emotion. His eyes were trained on the 2 girls by the door, occasionally darting towards Kushina. Who the hell are these people? And why the hell is she here? Sasuke nodded towards Haku. Well, Kushina paused, looking at Naruto as if to reassure him. My name is Kushina sorry, Uzumaki. I am Naruto's mom. It was obvious that Kushina was suppressing the urge to burst with happiness. Sasuke grunted. Naruto's mother is dead. No, Naruto shook his head. I thought she was but. It's not important, you know? Kushina pulled Naruto into a hug. This knucklehead will never explain it right anyway. Then who are you? Sakura butted in, pointing at the Kyuubi. I am the Kyuubi coughed, eyes going wide. My name is Kumiko. I was with Kushina-chan when Naruto found us. Sasuke sneered as he angrily left the room with Sakura grumbling and following behind him. As soon as the 2 were out of hearing range, Kumiko ruffled her nose at Naruto and blurted, Naruto-kun, I don't like the Uchiha. He seems like he's sort of suppressing his sexuality. Also, who shoved that stick up his ass? When the room roared with laughter, her cheeks burned red. Naruto smiled widely, shaking his head. Mum, can I learn any of Dad's techniques? Maybe eventually, Naruto-kun, Kushina said. Naruto said, what if I train really hard? She laughed. Then you would have to figure it out yourself. I don't know his jutsu, but I do have scrolls for you. Naruto looked around and ignoring her said, so, you're saying I can learn all of his jutsu? First maybe the Rasengan and we can see from there. Perhaps you should focus on your bloodline first. My bloodline? You know a lot about it? Naruto questioned. His eyes brightened with excitement. A bit. I found a scroll meant for when our clan fell to its last heir. I believe it should be yours. You may be a bit young to handle this, but why not start now? Heavens know you will need it. Kushina held out a pristine white and silver scroll with the Uzumaki clan symbol engraved into the sides. Naruto stood and walked towards his mother, vaguely wondering where she had kept the scroll. He took the scroll and realized quickly that the fabric was old, but aged well with time. It fell open, a seal that obviously required his blood to unseal. So he bit his thumb, wincing at the pain before he let one drop hit the center of the seal. A bright light enveloped the scroll before 3 newer-looking scrolls fell out. His eyes widened as he read the kanji on the newest 3. The first was a soft red fabric. It looked the most worn out of the 3 and was labeled seals. It was also the thickest. The next scroll was made of a newer, rougher fabric hat was labeled jutsu, and the third was made of a silky green fabric. The edges were more worn than the middle, but the writing stood out more than the other 2 scrolls. It read bloodline in an intricate font. Naruto's heart sped up, and he looked back at the original scroll. Words were scrawled in almost illegible font. Our last heir. It is quite possible that you are the last member of our once mighty clan. If you are the last, then you are possibly the world's last hope. This scroll has been passed through the generations in hopes that one day it would reach whomever survived of the Uzumaki clan. You have access to many of our clan traits. First, since the blood of our clan runs through your veins, you should be able to use our chakra binds. It is a trait passed through our blood. It is in the bloodline scroll. Every Uzumaki clan member is able to hone this skill. There are other bloodlines that seem to only manifest once in a single generation. They are our gift that passed from the Sage of 6 Paths himself. The Rinnegan was given to his son, whose line would one day become the Uzumaki clan. Since you were able to open our scroll and read this, the next step is to test your heart. If your heart is pure and full of love, then you can unlock this ability. We were given one way to use the Rinnegan outside of random manifestation, and perhaps you will be our champion. If you are not pure of heart, then you will die shortly after the seal activation. I fear that it is up to you to break this world of its curse. If there is such a thing as peace, then you are to find it. Our prophecy told of you many generations ago, a savior who would acquire the storm release and bring peace to our land. If you are our chosen, then find this information and learn. Protect our world and our clan. Cut your hand and activate the seal. Uzumaki Elder. He bit his thumb, then let his bloody finger touch the intricate seal, the black ink snaking up his arm the moment he touched the parchment. The ink glowed a bright red against his skin, and suddenly power surged around him, his blue chakra visible among the air. Suddenly the powerful aura felt like magma flowing through his veins. His heart seemed to skip a beat at every surge. He wanted to scream but found himself unable. The ink seemed to shake as the light dimmed, leaving a light scar along his right arm and hand. It was lighter than his skin, almost white. Then the light completely faded, leaving a permanent scar, spiraling around his arm. Then he felt the tears fly down his cheeks. The pain began to fade and he collapsed. He closed his eyes, waiting on the hard ground, but instead he found 2 pairs of arms, clutching his and holding him in a sitting position. It took most of his effort to open his eyes, and when he did, he noticed Kumiko's flinch of fear. that made his heart speed up in a negative way. Then he realized he had the Rinnegan. He was worthy. He was the chosen one. He coughed, unable to stop for several moments, but eventually relaxed against the two girls. He closed his eyes again, feeling the power fade, though it didn't leave. It more so felt like he had a new chakra reserved just for the Rinnegan. When he opened his eyes again, he knew they were blue again. Haku's arms were wrapped tight across his shoulders, and her heart was the only thing he could hear. His hair was draped across his cheek, and he almost lost himself if the woodland smell. Small hands wrapped firmly around his waist as Kumiko shifted behind him, pulling him close to her. His eyes started to droop, and he knew he would fall asleep within moments if the silence continued. Naruto. Haku's voice against his ear made him open his eyes and turn towards her. She looked confused and stunned, almost if she had no idea what to say. As he opened his mouth, the door into the room swung open. "Na, are you too?" Sakura's face was burning red as she stepped into the room. Her eyes narrowed at the two girls hugging him tightly. A tic appeared on her brow as she opened her mouth. "Enough, Sakura," Kushina firmly stated. Her eyes narrowed at the girl, as if daring her to say any more. Naruto stuck his tongue out at Sakura. "You're just jealous you don't get hugged by pretty people." Sakura huffed and left the room once more, stomping her way up the stairs. This was normal now. No more drunken beatings, no more empty homes, and no more cooking for himself. Naruto had a mother now. He had a family. He wasn't alone anymore. Still, he had a mission to save the world, and he would master whatever anything threw at him, but first he needed to sleep. Chapter 3. 1 week had passed since Naruto had read the scroll and Team 7 had saved Tezuna's newest bridge. Kakashi decided that they would stay a few more days to heal wounds and allow everyone a break before making the several days trek back to the village. Thankfully, Tezuna was more than happy to accommodate them. It was a tight squeeze with the 3 new guests, but it worked out in the end. They were set to leave within the next hour. This saddened the small village. They had come to know the people of the village pretty well within the week, and Naruto was happy and sad at the same time. He felt loved here in the village, but he also knew that he had his mother when he left. He knew that he had to leave. Naruto walked beside his mother as they wandered out of the village, towards the bridge. Villagers chatted with them as they left, and some even cried. The people had been very thankful because they had been saved. It was so much gratitude that many of them had received gifts throughout the week. Haku had received the most of anyone. The villagers didn't know the entire story, but Haku was the lone girl in the group that held delicate features. She was the most feminine of the girls. People wanted to shower her with gifts and presents to make her feel welcome. Silk scarves, new weapons, hair ornaments. Anywhere she went in the village, she received gifts. Kumiko actually received more items though. Where Haku got expensive gifts, Kumiko received small but numerous ones. Kumiko was cute where Haku was graceful. Kumiko was messy, and her hair was always pulled into a messy ponytail. Her face lit up often. Haku was quiet, yet dignified in comparison. Her hair was always neat, and she always kept a small smile when talking to anyone. Still, Haku never seemed to mind for the attention. If anything, she wished that everyone would leave her alone. She was a true introvert, always wanting to stay in small groups and have quiet conversations. The center of attention was something she did not enjoy. Halfway through the week, Haku had come home in completely different clothes than her normal attire. She had walked in with an icy blue knee-length kimono with dark blue chakra-resistant leggings underneath. Naruto had quickly convinced her to style her hair down, letting her locks fall in gentle dark waves to her waist. Naruto found it stunning. He had also given her gloves that matched her kimono with steel plates to protect the veins in her hands. They had small compartments to hold her senbon too. She wore regular ninja shoes that went just past her ankles. A village person had coerced Haku into letting them paint her shoes with intricate patterns of clouds and birds. Haku was a person one would call shy, and the palette of light blues suited her well. Kumiko, however, differed greatly from Haku. She was outgoing and loved being the center of everyone's attention. She was shorter than Haku, but it suited her fiery red hair. Her hair was straight and fell slightly above her knees. She pulled her hair back every day, leaving her fringe to fall and frame her face. Once they had come to terms with her, she had bought new clothes, consisting of a dark blue, almost black, sleeveless tank top that clung tightly to her body. Beneath, she had found dark red fishnet. Her shorts were black and hung loosely around her knees, giving one the impression of being almost boyish. Her shoes went around knee-high, barely tucking under her shorts. Most of the time, her ears and tails were hidden with a powerful jutsu. She disliked having to hide them, though. The two girls ended up being very close to each other. Wherever one would go, the other would tag along. Though it was obvious that they both liked Naruto, as any time he appeared both would start to blush and glance at each other. Though, unlike Ino and Sakura, this didn't affect their newly found friendship in the slightest. The crowd parted to allow them access to the bridge. The bridge was completely clean, with no signs left of the bloodshed. It had rained most evenings, as if the sky knew that they all needed to be cleansed. It refrained from raining today, instead settling on dark and dreary clouds. Naruto! Inari pulled Naruto down into his arms, tears threatening to spill over his eyelids. Naruto cleared his throat, barely holding back his own tears. Inari, it's okay to cry. It won't make you weak. I will if you cry first, was the sniffing reply. The two hugged a bit tighter before the voices of his team caught his attention. Naruto, it's time to go. Then they left. As they were crossing the bridge, Naruto caught the conversation between Inari and his grandfather. What should we name it, Inari? How about the Great Naruto Bridge, Grandpa? That's perfect, Inari. Naruto had a bridge named after him. How could his life get any better? Of course, if he had a steaming bowl of Ichiraka ramen and he was Hokage, but that was a pipe dream at the moments, and he was never one to complain about things he didn't have. He just liked to soak up whatever happiness came his way. He had a new mom and two new friends. This was the happiest time in his life. His heartbeat began to speed up. It did not matter what his old life way like. He had people who loved him, though in that moment, he didn't know how much one person actually cared about him. Hyuga Compound. Why Hinata? The stern, yet questioning voice belonged to a man in his early 30s. Be because I don't want to fight Hanabi, father. The girl dropped her eyes to the dojo flooring, hands nervously twiddling together. He sighed in frustration. Why must you be so kind-hearted? Too much like you, mother. Hanabi is 5 years your junior. She should not be able to best you. She burst into tears, fringe falling into her eyes as she bowed her head. It was everything she could do to keep her sobs from climbing out. Her face was red, but she stood still, unable to meet her father's gaze as tears poured down her cheeks. She had just been beaten in a sparring match by her younger sister. It wasn't that Hinata wasn't capable of beating Hanabi. She just didn't want to fight her sister. The same sister who she played with her entire life and looked out for. Plus, she didn't particularly like harming people. She would much rather be a medic, healing instead of harming. Her father narrowed his eyes at her, his cold, pale eyes seeming to pierce into her soul. He knew she disliked fighting. She was quiet, timid, and shy. These were awful traits for the heiress of a noble clan to possess. He had tried to harden her soul, but she was too much like her mother. Her heart was too pure. His tactics had already worked on Hanabi, though. She possessed the strong, natural leadership that he wanted from Hinata. Plus, Hanabi had the dark brown hair of their clan, while Hinata had her mother's plum color. Deep down, Hinata knew her father wasn't really disappointed. He was just saddened at her mother's passing, and Hinata closely resembled her mother. The tears wouldn't stop falling as she rubbed her eyes. She wasn't a disappointment. She had been 2 when she had unlocked her Byakugan. That was the youngest in her clan in the last century. Her cousin Niji had been 3. He was regarded as the clan genius, even though she learned quicker. Hinata just never had the right personality. Niji was the cold person that they had tried to breed Hinata into. Her voice was too soft to lead her clan. At the age of 5, Hinata mastered the basic stance of the gentle fist. Hinata was too headstrong in that way that she never gave up her own thoughts and dreams for the plans of the clan's council. She did not want to waste it on hurting others. Her quiet nature had always fooled the plan, though her father knew better. Her Byakugan range saw farther than that of any of her cousins. Her range was almost a full kilometer. She could do 8 trigrams, 128 palms without any nervousness. She was powerful, Hinata knew, but she liked being underestimated. She liked not being the center of attention. Her father walked out of the dojo with purpose, allowing the door to slam behind him. She missed Naruto. She missed catching glimpses of the bright blonde hair as he ran through town, and his smile always brightened her day. She hoped he would smile when she dropped his birthday present off. Never had she actually physically given him a present. Instead, she always left it at his doorstep and watched as he found it. His birthday would be next week, and Hinata couldn't help but think of the night he saved her. So long ago. She had been only 3 at the time. The night had come and the Hyuga estate had been shrouded in almost complete darkness, except for the spaced lanterns marking the paths. That night Hinata woke from nightmare after nightmare until she had fallen into a peaceful slumber. Once she was sound asleep, her window slid silently open, allowing her captor to make his way inside her room without anyone noticing. It was when he picked her up that her eyes opened and she saw a peek of the man before she was stuffed into a body bag. The man had a Kumo headband and stood taller than her father, and his eyes were surprising light. She tried to scream when he pulled her through the window but found a silencing seal had been used on her. So, she squirmed as much as she could in hopes that someone would notice her predicament. It only got her a sharp kick that made her want to cry. The man made his way through the darkened streets for only a moment before Hinata felt herself fall to the cold, hard ground. She squirmed her way out of the bag to see the man being attacked by another child, whose hair was a bright blonde even at night. Hinata watched as the boy was thrown to the ground and red began to seep away from him, and his eyes turned feral. She couldn't recount anything after that moment until she woke with her father covered in blood, and her mother cradling her close. Everyone around her seemed wary to approach the boy, whose skin looked covered in small burns. Hayashi. Her mother's voice brought her gaze back. Her mother had been beautiful, with long locks of hair and pale skin. She's awake. Her father turned away from the corpse of the man and moved to pull Hinata into a hug. Thank Kami, you're okay, Hinata. Her parents shared a look and nodded to her guard, Ko. Ko will take you home, Hinata. We will be home soon. Her parents quickly left with the Hokage and Ko came to make sure she was fine. Hinata walked away from Ko and to the boy that had saved her life. His hair was matted with blood, but Hinata took a leap away from her usual shyness and kissed him on the cheek. Thank you. Before he could say anything, Ko pulled her away from the scene and within minutes she was back home. Hinata smiled widely at the old memory, one which had terrorized her dreams until she had started the academy. She had already activated her Byakugan then. She took a deep breath and brought her mind back to the dojo. Hanabi had just finished putting her regular clothing back on, leaving her training clothes neatly folded in her kubi. Her eyes flickered over towards her sister, and Hinata thought she caught a glimpse of sorrow in her sister's eyes. She took a deep breath as her sister left the training hall, and Hinata moved to the back of the room, and slid open the back door and made her way to one of the unused training houses. It had been unused for years. Once inside, Hayashi silently nodded as she closed the door, shrouding them in silence. He undid the sash on his robe and let it fall to the ground, leaving him in a training uniforms that very few people saw anymore. Are you ready, Hinata? Yes, father. Hinata bit her lip, suddenly upset by her own stuttering. He moved into position for their clan's taijutsu, the gentle fist. Then they began their sparring practice working on the 8 trigrams. It was the perfect jutsu for their clan since it closed all of the tenketsus, rending the person's body to circulate chakra. It would kill a person as if all of their blood had been cut off. She had the practical part of the jutsu down, rarely missing her target, but Hinata had the issue with actually performing the jutsu. She almost refused to cut off any of the tenketsu in the body. The training lesson lasted an hour, Hayashi gently correcting misplaced hands and feet while sternly teaching any new material. Hinata didn't think anyone in her clan actually knew of these training sessions, which made her feel more confident about them. No one ever watched as her father taught her new jutsu and stances and sometimes clan history. She just hoped that she would never be a clan head as stern as her father. Hinata, I need to talk to you. Hayashi put his hand up to stop her from practicing. She could help but jump at the tone. Yes, sir. Change and then we will proceed to my office. He was already pulling his robe back on and tying his sash tightly. Hinata quickly changed and met her father at the edge of the outdoor path. They walked in silence through the grounds. Hinata could hear a few people in the branch house whispering as they passed, and she knew they all thought she was in trouble again. It was a common sight for her father to berate her and bring her into the study. She discarded her shoes as they made their way into the house. His study was at the back of the long hallway, close to the stairwell. She wondered if this was finally the discussion about her hiding her abilities from the rest of the clan. It was long coming and Hinata had expected it the moment she became a genin, but it had never come. She sat on the small pillow that was across from his desk and looked down, waiting on him to start the conversations. If she had to start, Hinata wasn't sure that any noise would come from her lips. Hinata, look at me. She looked up. Why yes, father? He made a hand sign, activating the seals in his office to block out the Byakugan. I have come to the decision that you should be aware of what your mother decided for your future. Hinata nodded, confused. He cleared his throat and began talking. I don't honestly know where to begin. Your mother was the love of my life. We grew up together and married very young. Your mother was vibrant and soft-spoken, and I don't think I ever heard her say a negative word about anyone. Once she told me, Hayashi, you shouldn't say bad things about people, because you'll only think negatively of everyone around you. That's off topic, but it's very difficult for me to think of her. Your mother was a very close friend to the fourth Hokage's wife, Kushina. They grew close in our late teenage years, and we grew close to both the fourth and Kushina. Your mother and Kushina had a great idea, seeing as they were both pregnant at the time. An arranged marriage, if you will. He paused there as if to gauge her response. Anyways, you are to marry the son of the fourth. He was very proud of the fact that he would be a father and thought there would be no one better than the princess of our clan. Then the Ninetales attacked Konoha. It was a mistake. Someone took control of the fox and forced it to attack Konoha. Kushina had been the Jinchuriki since she was a child, and the Ninetales had always been friendly and kind. Her healing powers are legendary. The fourth and his wife gave their lives to seal the beast into their child. Who? Hinata, I believe that once the council figures out the heir, they will enact the Clan Restoration Act on the boy. This means you will be in a relationship where you are not his only wife. If you don't want to marry Dash. Hinata boldly cut him off. Who is this man? When he didn't answer, you asked again. Naruto Uzumaki. Hinata blinked. What? Hayashi began to keep speaking, but she couldn't hear him over her own thoughts. Her heart was filled with a lightness that was only lighted by anxiety. Her muscles hurt from how tense they were. She wasn't marriage material. Sure, she could cook, and she had a bloodline, but she wasn't nearly as pretty as other girls, and Naruto had always been interested in Sakura. How could he love her when she was so opposite of the type of girl that he liked? Hinata had never been someone who stood out. She was quiet and awkward and weird. How could he like that? Plus, her will was extremely weak in comparison to his. Hinata's head felt like it was spinning as she thought. It took the knock on the door to push her back into reality. Enter. Haishi's voice fell back to the usual stern tone. A branch member entered the study and whispered something into his ear. Hayashi glanced up at Hinata, furrowing his brow. He stood up and beckoned her to follow after him. It seems that we have guests. Hinata quickly moved to make herself presentable, running her hands along the fabric of her clothing and making sure her hair hung neatly. As they entered the sitting room, the flash of yellow hair made her stomach turn, and her heart skip a beat. She didn't even notice the women next to him. His eyes were the same bright blue and he looked no different than when he had left. Though at the same time she was sure he looked older. Perhaps it was just the glint in his eyes as if he knew something worth sharing. Naruto. Her voice was so quiet she wasn't sure if he heard her. Her eyes flew back towards her father, wondering if he was seeing the boy too, wondering if Naruto knew anything about her discussion with her father. "I'm home," Naruto said. She saw her father's eyes widen and followed his gaze to the women, her red hair flowing like fire behind her. Haishi's voice was unsteady. "Kushina. The one and only. The women light us," her smile mimicking Naruto's. Then Hinata paced it together. They were related. Her head began to spin, everything becoming out of focus before her world went black. Naruto dived forward to catch her limp body. For once, Hinata wasn't wearing her usual bulky jacket, instead only wearing the thin training top which clung to her already blossoming form. He couldn't stop his eyes from roaming across her breasts. He cleared his throat. "Well, I guess she isn't used to me suddenly appearing." Kushina brought her hand to her mouth to cover her giggle. "Why don't you take her to her room?" Naruto nodded, shifting Hinata into a bridal-style hold. Where's her room at?" Hayashi sighed. "Upstairs and first door on the right." Up the stairs he went. As he went up the stairs, he heard Hayashi's voice crack. "Kushina, is that really you?" His mother replied, "Yeah, it is Databane." Naruto picked up his speed, leaving his mother alone with an old friend. Hinata's room wasn't hard to find and he quickly deposited her on the bed. She was prettier than he remembered. He thought that she would make a fine wife one day. He was home. Ch4. Naruto walked slowly out of Hinata's room, shutting the door quietly, in hopes that Hinata would end up sleeping through the night. It was getting to be pretty late. He took a few breaths, calming the burning in his cheeks. He walked down to the opposite side of the hallway, curious about the open door at the end. He could see that the room was just as clean and organized as Hinata's had been. It didn't look lived in, really. As he grew closer, he realized that it was another bedroom, and a young girl was perched on the bed. "Who are you?" Her voice was already lower than Hinata's. He scratched the back of his head. "Oh, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Why are you in Hinata's house?" "Hinata is my older sister." "I didn't know Hinata had a sister," he said. She nodded and stood up, stalking towards him. For someone so much smaller than him, Hanabi was an intimidating person. Her light skin was accented by her dark brown hair, but it framed it in a way that made her look powerful. He found himself straightening his shoulders for no other reason than she was staring at him, her eyes cold and calculating. "Why are you in our house?" Her eyes narrowed. "My mom wanted to talk to you, Dad," he said. "Why?" "Don't hesitate." Hanabi crossed her arms. "Why are you in my home? And what business do you have of my father? Tell me now or I will call my guard." "I'm just Naruto Uzumaki," he shouted. "My mom had business with your dad, and I was in the same academy class as Hinata." "Humph." Hanabi frowned. She put her hand on her hip and narrowed her eyes at him. "I don't like you." "Huh." "You're annoying," she said. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. This small girl held the power of intimidation. Hanabi Hyuga was definitely different than Hinata, and Naruto wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing. It was certainly a terrifying thing. I have to go find my mom. I'll see you later, Hanabi. Naruto turned and went straight to the stairs, not looking back once to see if she was watching him. As he tread down the stairs, he felt his cheek begin to burn, although his heart felt light with happiness. He saw his mother talking quietly to Hayashi, though the conversation stopped the moment he came within earshot. Naruto, dear, we should leave Hayashi and his family alone for the evening. We wouldn't want to be rude, Kushina said. Hayashi smiled and nodded at the two, his eyes darting towards the door. And I'm sure your companions wouldn't like to wait too much longer. Oh yeah. Naruto nodded. I forgot about them, Naruto said. Naruto and Kushina quickly made their way to the door to put their shoes back on and leave the property. As they were walking to the gate, Naruto looked up to his mother. Hey mom, can we go see Gramps? Of course, Naruto. You shouldn't wait to tell the Hokage important information. Kushina laughed a deep laugh. The gates opened and they soon met up with Haku and Kumiko. Naruto looked towards the Hokage monument and pointed at it. We're going there next. The Hokage is our village's leader and he gets to decide everything. Not quite everything, Kushina said. The council also decides a lot of important things. As they started the walk towards the tower, Naruto's mind drifted back to the conversation with Hanabi and the situation at hand with Hinata. Hanabi couldn't be any older than 7, even though she seemed entirely put together. Her demeanor felt much like their father, but Naruto honestly found the younger girl more terrifying. Perhaps it was the way her hair fell in her face, framing her pale cheeks and eyes. And her eyes, they were so calculating, as if she considered everything around her at all times. He shuddered just thinking of the type ninja she would become. Suddenly he felt glad that he lived in the Leaf Village. Though, if his engagement happened, Hanabi would be his sister-in-law, and perhaps that was a scarier existence than facing her on the battlefield. Perhaps it was even scarier, still, that he was headed towards one of the few adults he trusted to plead for two dangerous persons. Haku, technically classified as a rogue ninja, and Kumiko was the great beast that destroyed the village. What on earth had happened to his relatively normal life? Before he knew it, they were at the door to the Hokage's office. He couldn't help but hesitate, mind jumbled. Naruto! Kumiko pushed his shoulder forward, silently telling him to go inside. Yeah, sorry. He pushed open the door and put his shoulders back. I'm Bisia. He cut off as someone tackled him to the ground. Boss! Konohamaru grinned down at him. Konohamaru! Naruto yelled. Quickly Haku and Kumiko were pulling the small boy off of Naruto. Kumiko seemed to exude an aura of anger, while Haku seemed almost emotionless. Sorry, boss, the boy cried out, as if he was afraid now that he had been taken into custody. Naruto said, let him go. He's an academy student. Seeing Kumiko's nose turn up at his statement, Naruto rolled his eyes. Konohamaru was someone that you had to get used to. He was loud and hyper, much like Naruto had been at that age. He craved the attention of everyone around him, and he did anything to get it. Naruto saw Konohamaru glance away from him, towards his two friends, Moegi and Udon. I need to talk to the Hokage. I'll meet up with you guys later. Okay? The three students nodded and slipped out the door. Once they were gone, Naruto felt his cheeks begin to heat up again. Konohamaru might make him look bad in front of the girls, and his mom. He had proven himself on the dangerous mission, only to have the shrimp act like they were on the same level. It was just plain embarrassing. If they saw the interaction that way, then they would know he wasn't nearly as good as he had been on the bridge. They would know that Sasuke was the powerful one. They wouldn't want to be around him, and that would leave him without anyone again. Naruto, the Hokage cleared his throat. I have already heard a report from Kakashi, but I assume there is more to the story? Yes, sir. Naruto nodded, anxious about what would happen next. We will need to schedule a date to hold court in front of our council. It shouldn't be too difficult to show the council that these two have changed and wish to join the village. However, I have my suspicions about one. His eyes flickered towards Kumiko, a knowing look in his eyes. May I ask you friends a few questions? Naruto nodded. He turned his gaze towards Haku and smiled. What is your name? Haku Yuki, she replied. Where were you born? The land of water. My parents were simple farmers until my father learned of my bloodline. Hiruzen nodded. I understand. What happened afterwards? I lived on the streets begging for food and clothing for maybe a year before Zabuza found me. He took me in and gave me clothing and food so long as I trained to protect him. I have trained with him for the majority of my life. You need not relive any other possibly unpleasant memories, Haku. I do, however, need you to officially state your purpose in wanting to join our village. Yes, sir. She took a deep breath. I want a new beginning. I don't want to be used as a weapon with no emotions anymore. I want to have a clean start where no one will try and hurt me just because I exist. When I was a child, I could never have lived a normal life because of my bloodline. My father murdered my mother after finding out. He tried to kill me, but I ended up killing him instead. I didn't have a choice in my life, and now I have a choice. He nodded and turned his gaze to Kumiko. And you? What is your name? She paused to look at Naruto and then Kushina. I won't lie, Hokage-sama. I am going by the pseudo name Kumiko, but my title is Kyubi no Yoko. He nodded. I suspected as much. Tell me of your origin. I was chosen as the Kyubi when I was very young. It was an honor among my clan, as only one was chosen every few centuries. I was the brightest of my generation when the last Kyubi. It was around the time that Lady Kushina moved to the Leaf Village. I eventually met Minato through her, and befriended them both. You might be wondering why I look so young, but that is because of how my clan ages. We age very slowly in comparison to humans when we are in our demon forms. While I am in my human form, I age like a human. I understand that my presence has caused your world much chaos because of my power when unleashed. I do hope that your village can forgive my former transgressions against it and accept me as a member who will protect it. My life is in the hands of Lady Kushina and Naruto, and since the village is precious to them, then it is precious to me. Her eyes burned with a bright fire as she concluded. I understand, Miss Kumiko. The Hokage nodded. He finished writing down their statements in his paper before stamping it, putting it in a sealed folder and replacing it in one of his desk drawers. Old man, Naruto said, what's going to happen to them? Well, Naruto, I believe that their statements will be shown to the council members, and there will be a trial to see if they believe that either of these girls will bring harm. Kushina touched Naruto's shoulder with a reassuring squeeze. It will be fine, Naruto. Don't worry. That's all you need from us? Kumiko questioned, hands flying to her hips. The Hokage nodded. All I needed was the basis of your case for the council. Oh, she replied. Naruto frowned. That's it? You take one statement and then they decide if they can be a ninja of our village? You're the Hokage. You should have the power to fix all of this and let them join. I'm sorry, Naruto. I don't have complete power in our village. Most power resides in the clan heads. You see, the Hokage is chosen by Fire Nation's lord. If I had all power over the village, I could easily take control and force the population into slavery per se. Naruto pursed his lips but didn't say anything. With the clan heads being able to make some decisions, it allows for me to have control over our ninja forces and not worry about civil cases such as having new persons join our populace. I have the power to instate ninja from our population, but I have almost no power in letting someone join our village. That isn't to say that I have no sway in the council. I was selected as Hokage because of how I approach problems and new information. The Hokage has to be a person who is wise enough to stay away from petty wars and someone who is determined enough to stay with his decisions. Do you understand? Naruto said, I do. I just don't like it. I'm sorry that you do not particularly like our system right now. I do have a busy schedule, so I am going to have to ask you to leave. The court date will be later this week. I will send an umbu with the information tomorrow morning. And Naruto, remember that you will be a part of this meeting as well. With your status of Namikaze, you may have a bigger role in our village than you imagine. Hiruzen signed and moved on to the next sheet of paperwork. Tempt. The next council meeting ended up being 3 days later. The room was silent as the rest of the council filtered their way into the room and moved to their designated seats. The meeting was boring at first, talking about small issues such as a neighbor's fence being an inch on their land, or this year's taxes. Naruto really hadn't been paying attention. Instead, he had watched the people around him. Hayashi was here, of course, and he thought that one woman was Kiba's mother, and another Shikamaru's father, and Sakura's mother was a Civiline Council member. He wasn't quite sure of the rest. Many of his classmates had been from the other clans, but Naruto had never met their parents or siblings, so he wasn't sure the relation. Kumiko suddenly gave his hand a small squeeze under the table, and that brought him back to the council member's speech. Uzumaki Naruto, please stand. Naruto stood. We as a council have discussed and voted what to do because of your status as Lord Fourth's heir. We have come to the conclusion that it will be best if we enact the ancient law. This is modernly known as the CRA or Clan Restoration Act. Since we are choosing this path, if you do not fulfill our requirements, you will be killed. Do you have any questions? Hell yes I do. Naruto stood up. What are these supposed requirements? I'm only 12 right now, and I don't think it's fair to expect a ton out of me right now. The man grimaced. Of course not. By the age of 18, you must have taken 5 wives. It's very simple. We have to start expanding the Namikaze clan into what it once was. By the age of 16, you must have found at least 1 woman to marry. Extensions can be made at times if you come before the council when the time nears. We have any issues with your loyalty to the village, your bloodline may become considered too dangerous. Keep that in mind, Mr. Uzumaki. Naruto frowned at this but didn't say anything negative. He knew this was one of the best outcomes. He very well could have been deemed too dangerous and assassinated on the spot. There would be very little he could have done to change the decision, and who was he to complain about being surrounded by loving women for the rest of his life? Yuki Haku, please stand. Haku stood up, meeting the Kuselman's gaze with a look of stern determination. Yes, sir. Welcome to Konoha, Haku. We need to ask you a few questions before we decide what to do with you. Is that all right? His tone was much softer than it had been when addressing Naruto. Haku nodded. We need you to state your reasons for wanting to join our village. We have all looked over your statement, but I would like some clarity. You were born in the land of water. Yes, sir. My village was small in the north, so we were a very small part. He nodded. And have you ever had affiliation with your land? Not anything that would be considered an affiliation. Explain. My father murdered my mother when I was very young because of our bloodline. I luckily found refuge on the streets and survived until Zabuza Momochi found me and took me under his wing. I never had any connections to any villages except through him. I did awful things in the name of my master, but he trained me and taught me everything I know about being a ninja. After he died, I realized that my life was close to pointless. I don't want my life to be pointless anymore. I don't want a master who dictates my life. This is my chance to start fresh and learn to care for the sake of friendship and love. Miss Kushina has been so nice to me in the last few weeks, and I want a chance to help her as well. Please, I want a life where I can protect something special. Haku stopped talking and closed her eyes to take a deep breath. Naruto could see that her hands shook as the room started up in an array of whispers. From the corners of her eyes, tears started to form, but Haku seemed able to push them back. We shall vote on this matter. A piece of paper passed around the room and each council member wrote something down. Soon the paper went back to the councilman who looked over it. All right, Haku, we as a council have unanimously decided to approve your case to join our village. This is for you. He handed her a small package. Inside is 5,000 Rio, which is roughly the pay of a C-ranked mission. This should be enough to start to settle in. There is also coupons for a month of free food passes. You will be on a 6-month probation and instated as a Genin-level ninja per the Hokage's recommendation. Report to the Hokage on Monday to be assigned a team. You will be permitted to partake in the Chunin exams in 2 months. Do you understand? Yes, Haku slowly grinned. Thank you so much. And Miss Kumiko, the council man stuttered. You are a special case within our village. We have spent many hours in consideration of your role here. After discussing everything in depth, we will offer you the same as we did Miss Yuki. Though we will have an ANBU checking your actions periodically. We hope you understand our hesitation in this matter. Kumiko nodded. I understand that I caused a lot of destruction to your village. I did many awful things even though I was under a jutsu at that time. It may sound impossible, but I had no control over my own thoughts or actions on that fateful day. To be honest, I barely remember any of it other than the man who controlled me. To you all, it must be a scary thought to throw your trust in a demon. You have very little reason to trust me other than the witness accounts. Lady Kushina has spoken for me, and I am eternally grateful that you are allowing me a chance to prove my loyalty to the village and to my friends. Let us hope that our trust in you is not misguided. He nodded as the rest of the council to stand. We would like to welcome you to our village, Kumiko and Haku. The girls grinned at each other and Naruto felt his heart lighten greatly. Everything went much faster than he thought it would. The meeting took maybe an hour. He suspected it was because of the statements the Hokage had taken previously. No matter, Naruto was just happy that his 2 newest friends were tentative citizens of Konoha. I'm a bit hungry, Kushina stated. We should all go eat ramen to celebrate this great day. Ichiraka's ramen is the best. Let's go there, Mom. Naruto grinned widely. The group headed towards the ramen stand. Much to Naruto's great delight, there were few other customers when they arrived, which allowed them to be seated rather quickly. They quickly ordered food for each of them, Naruto starting his order with 2 bowls. The food came quickly as it always did, and the group found themselves celebrating rather happily. I noticed that there was a ninja clothing shop that we passed. What's the difference in a ninja and civilian clothing shop? Kumiko asked, eyes wide with question. Naruto had learned quickly that many human understandings didn't come easily to her. He assumed it was because she never paid attention to the outside world while she had been sealed away. That's a good question, Kumiko. Kushina set her chopsticks down as she spoke. Ninja clothing tends to use more expensive fabrics that are made while continuously weaving chakra into it. This allows the clothing to take on specific characteristics depending on the amount and type of chakra used. If someone had an affinity for the element of fire, then the clothing they weave will take on characteristics such as extra protection from the element of wind while offering no protection from the element of water. Does that make sense? Kumiko nodded. What if they have an affinity for more than one element? Haku pipped in, suddenly curious. Kushina thought for a moment. Well, that's where things get a bit tough to think about. It really depends on a person's ability to control their elements. If someone has really good chakra control, they can give characteristics such as using a lighter fabric without any negative side effects like ripping easily. A person with really good chakra control and the ability to use several elements can eventually discover how to use their chakra to weave certain characteristics that they want into the fabric. Mind you, if someone puts too much chakra into the fabric, it can catch on fire if their affinity is fire, or be cut if their affinity is wind. The people go into this field are ninja who do not like combat but still enjoy using chakra. It's very few and far between, but they have made major advancements in the clothing of ninja. That's fascinating, Haku said. I never thought about the civilian-minded ninja. Before I met Naruto, thought every person alive was like Zabuza. He always went for things that made his life easier. To think that some people love to take the time to learn a skill like chakra-enhanced weaving seems very different than the world I grew up in. Naruto suddenly raised a hand to call the attention of the owner. Tenchi. Another bowl of miso ramen, please. Oh Naruto, your dad would be ashamed if he saw you. He always disliked my obsession for ramen, but it seems that's something else you inherited from me. Kushina laughed and settled back into her seat, waiting quietly as the three preteens started up conversation again while they finished their bowls of ramen. In the end, Naruto had downed a total of 10 bowls of ramen, whole Kushina ate 5. Haku and Kumiko both only ate 1 though, and after both Naruto and Kushina ordered more after their third now, the girls gave up on wondering where the food went. They thanked Tenchi as they left, Kushina paying without giving anyone else the option. Naruto started to notice that it was starting to get dark out and both Haku and Kumiko were acting a bit odd. He couldn't quite nail down the reason. They both were avoiding eye contact and they seemed to hesitate at every corner. Then Kushina spoke up. Haku, Kumiko, I know that everything in your life has changed suddenly, but I believe Naruto would agree with me. I want you both to stay in the Namikaze compound for the time being. You, of course, can stay as long as you like, but I won't stop you from leaving if you ever feel the need. I am not your mother, but I missed the first 12 years of my son's life and I always wanted more children. You are all still very young and I would like to offer you a home. Would you like to stay with us for the time being? Of course, Lady Kushina. Kumiko bowed her head. We would both be honored to stay in your family compound. Your offer is very generous. I agree, Lady Kushina. Haku stumbled over the title, as if lords and ladies were foreign to her tongue. No need to call me lady. Kushina is more than fine. She pulled the two girls into a hug, not letting go for several moments. Now let's get home before it gets too dark. I'm rather tired. And thus, they went to the Namikaze compound to get a night full of rest before having to deal with any consequences that came at them in the next few days. CH5. I am engaged. Hinata sputtered out to the group that surrounded her. Her cheeks were flushed red and her hands were trembling. The blonde girl gasped. To who? How did that happen? Asked the brunette beside her. I. Hinata closed her eyes to breathe. Haku grinned at her. Don't worry about it, Hinata. Take your time to tell everyone. Out with it, Hinata, the blonde demanded. Calm down, Ino. She's embarrassed, Kumiko said. Ino put her hands on her hips, letting her hair fall in front of her eye. Oh, I know you're right. Hinata shook her hands in front of her in a defeated gesture, silently asking someone to help her out. Haku complied. It's Naruto. Naruto? Ino laughed, almost falling over. You're joking. No, Ino. She isn't. I'm betrothed to Naruto. Hinata looked down at her hands, suddenly more embarrassed. Ino didn't actually laugh as an insult, Hinata knew. Naruto was a knucklehead and he was always getting into trouble. Ino just didn't know him very well. Hinata. The brunette tilted her head. Who is Naruto? He has blonde hair and usually wears orange? You've probably seen him, Tenten. Oh, that kid. Tenten smiled. He's come into my da's shop a few times for kanai. Hinata glanced over to Kaneko, who had been practically silent the entire day. She thought she caught a glimpse of jealousy, but it was gone when she looked to make sure. Hinata tried to grin. Ino. Wow. I mean, I wouldn't want to be engaged, but if you're happy then I'm happy for you. I can't believe your parents put you into an engagement contract. That's so old-fashioned. Ino started laughing. Well, our parents were very good friends and it was almost a political thing. Political? Tenten asked. What do you mean political? Naruto's mom and dad, of course. Kumiko butted in. With his dad being the 4th Hokage and his mom an Uzumaki. The 4th? Ino jumped to her feet, eyes wide. You're telling me Naruto's the son of Lord 4th? Kumiko. Hinata let her head fall in disappointment. The news of Naruto's heritage wasn't supposed to be everywhere yet. Kushina hadn't made a big public statement with the Hokage yet. Naruto is the son of the 4th, but we aren't supposed to share that yet. He'll be targeted by his father's enemies, so you have to stay quiet about it. Hell, Ino sighed. It's funny that knucklehead always yelled about becoming the Hokage when he was already related to one. You're really engaged. Yes, Ino. My dad and the fourth, they signed a contract stating that we would wed unless either of us found someone that we loved before the date of our tentative marriage. It was signed in blood using very old forms of jutsu. Tenten pursed her lips. How does Naruto feel about this? Naruto says, well, Hinata paused to think. He said that even though, we don't necessarily love each other yet, that we definitely could. He wants to give it a try because of the engagement. It's not like he, kissed me yet or anything. As her friends laughed and talked about the engagement, Hinata twiddled her thumbs nervously. She, of course, knew that her father would one day arrange a marriage that would be suitable for her. She had never thought it would be to Naruto, and she sure as hell never thought that she would be so young when she found out. Hinata glanced out of the window, catching a tuft of bright blonde hair coming towards them. It disappeared from sight, but moments later he stood in the doorway. He gave her a wide, lazy grin. Hinata! He looked slightly uncertain as he glanced around at the group of girls. Naruto. Hinata's cheeks flushed. I went by your house because I wanted to show you something, but your dad said that you were here. He scratched the back of his head. But I guess I can just show you another time since you're busy. Her stomach dropped at that. Of course, she would rather go with Naruto and be shown somewhere he thought great enough to show her. Lately it was like she was actually living a dream. Naruto, just take her. Ino loudly complained at the boy. We're pretty much done talking anyways, so just go and ruin our fun here. Sorry about that, Ino. He glanced over to Hinata and took her hand. Thanks for letting me take her. He flashed a smile towards the group, and they quickly left the building and started towards the Hyuga estate. Where are we going, Naruto? Hinata managed to ask, thoroughly confused when they started towards the heart of the village. Your house, he stated. You need to go put a bathing suit on under your clothes. It's part of the surprise. You'll love it. Her bathing suit. Hinata's mind started to turn. There was a small beach on a lake a few miles outside of the village. That was pretty popular, but she had been there many times in her life. He seemed excited for whatever he was going to show her, but really, it was just confusing her. They came to her house and he waited as she ran up the stairs to change. Naruto was going to see her in her suit. What if he thought she wasn't very pretty? She opened her top drawer in her dresser and pulled out the silky material. It was a light lavender with a dark blue pattern scattered throughout. It was a new suit this year and she had only worn it twice before. It was a one-piece that clung tightly to her hips and chest, but not so much that it was inappropriate. Once she had changed, Hinata made her way back to Naruto and they left, heading towards the village gates. They left on one of the trails that led through the training ground, covered in leaves and sticks. They walked for longer than Hinata could tell, but eventually Naruto led her down a small path that led to one of the latter training grounds. This was definitely not the way to the beach. Hinata and Naruto came to a stop in front of a tall, chain-link fence. It looked old and unkept with vines and weeds weaving their way around the chains. Naruto dropped her hand and closed his eyes in concentration. Tiger, ox, boar, dog, bird, tiger. His hands stopped the seals and a seal that covered the entire fence appeared. Hinata's eyes went wide as she studied it. It was more complex than any seal she had ever seen. She didn't get to look at it long as Naruto bit his thumb and smeared his blood on the seal. He looked back at her from over his shoulder. Just a few more seconds and the seal will open the fence. Hinata nodded, watching with wide eyes when the fence seemed to dematerialize into a pathway deeper into the forest. She couldn't help but freeze, unsure how this place could exist so close to her home. Naruto took her hand. Come on, Hinata. It's not too far. We'll be there in just a few minutes. Naruto, what are we going to? Don't ruin the surprise. You'll see in a bit. He started walking quicker, obviously very excited. Tempt. Kumiko had decided to follow after her two friends and managed to drag Haku along with her. It took a few minutes to find the pair, but when they did, Kumiko felt her stomach drop a bit. It really wasn't that she was jealous of Hinata. She was glad that the girl was so happy and Hinata was incredibly sweet. She was also very pretty. Kumiko could see Hinata being beautiful one day. It really was the fact that Naruto constantly doted on Hinata. She understood that the two were forced into an arranged marriage, but she didn't understand why they had to spend so much time together. Of course, there was also the fact that Kumiko knew about Naruto's rule. He had to marry 5 women minimum. She wanted him to at least notice her. There was something about him that just drew her in, and Kumiko already knew that she wanted to be one of the women. He was a special man and she knew he was worth sharing. She didn't even mind the idea of having to live with all the other women. Haku whispered into her ear, "Why are we following him again?" "Shoo!" She scowled. "Because we won't know what they do on this date. We don't want to be left out." "That makes sense. Why don't we just ask them?" "Because they won't tell us everything." Kumi, they're gone." Haku went on her tiptoes to look around, but the two were completely gone. It took a few more minutes to find them, but their mission quickly ended when they found the impassable seal. "Stupid seal," Kumiko hissed. It really wasn't that she couldn't get through the seal. It was that she couldn't get through without destroying it. The intricate weavings around the side showed that it was a blood seal. That meant that only Naruto and his invited guests could go through without having to completely undo the seal. It wasn't as if she could just reseal it either. Seals had never been her interest when learning about humans. She had preferred ninjutsu and taijutsu. Something just spoke to her about beat someone to a pulp, not weaving seals and targeting the mind. Genjutsu was another matter altogether, though. "What do you want to do now?" Haku asked. She put a hand on Kumiko's shoulder. "We could go home or go train." "I say we go train. I really want to hit something right now." Tempt. Naruto pulled Hinata past a boulder that blocked their path. Though the boulder really was more like a cliff. The area around them started to grow rockier as they went up a path. Soon they stumbled upon a small pool of water, easily identifiable as an onsen or hot spring. Naruto watched as Hinata's eyes lit up at the onsen. Naruto's reason for showing her wasn't that he wanted to see her in her suit. No, he wanted to swim in the hot spring. It was just a bonus that Hinata would be with him. Ever since his mom told him of this place, he had wanted to visit, and he also needed to spend more time with Hinata. Naruto pulled his shirt off, letting it fall to the dry ground feet away from the water. "Excited?" he asked her. "Very. I wasn't expecting this." Her cheeks began to flush again. "When did you find this place?" "I haven't actually been out here before," he said. "Mom told me about it, and your dad said I could bring you with me." Hinata nodded at his answer and glanced towards the ground. Can you turn around, please?" Naruto turned around so that he was facing the water. Hinata had always been very shy. A week of being engaged wouldn't change that. He supposed that she felt very insecure about her body since she always wore bulky clothing. In fact, Naruto wasn't even sure he had seen her in anything more revealing than her training uniform at the Hyuga estate, and that was not revealing in the slightest. You can turn around now." He did. Hinata was holding one arm nervously, though it only caused him to look more at her chest. She was quite developed for their age, he knew. The swimsuit fit very snug against her breasts, leaving them encased in a strong outline which let him see almost exactly their shape and size. Her stance only pushed her bosom out, leaving very little to the imagination. It actually was very modest, covered more skin than most swimsuits. Naruto just couldn't help but find the slight curves of her body. Then he noticed her legs. They were toned. That made him notice the toned muscles all over her body. Her arms, legs, and he could imagine abs. Her nails were painted a matching color to her swimsuit. He looked away from her, trying to hide the blush that crept up to his cheeks. Kami, how had he not noticed her before? Naruto sure as hell could understand why Hinata was embarrassed. She had liked him since they were a lot younger. It must be like a dream for her. Suddenly her crush had come to her house and asked her father for a date. Then she was on a date with him, not to mention she was engaged. Naruto couldn't even imagine what Hinata had to be feeling about everything, and he doubted he would ever hear her true feelings. "Hey Hinata!" Naruto sang her name and pushed her playfully into the water before jumping in after her. "Naruto!" Hinata squealed. She came out of the water after a moment, catching her breath. "Yes," he said. "Oh," she groaned. "I didn't expect that." She closed her eyes, and within a moment a splash of water came his way. He didn't have time to dodge before it knocked into his head, pushing him back. "You've started it now," he grinned. Kumiko and Haku made their way back to the fence after training for around an hour. It had definitely helped with the awry emotions. "Damn, I wonder if they'd left yet," she sputtered. Haku said, "Maybe there is another way inside." "Of course not. This is an old seal. It looks like it gathers nature chakra to stay activated. There's no way we could get in another way." "What's nature chakra?" "Well, it's basically the chakra from the living things around us. The trees, plants, and even the land itself. Let me explain. Wait, do you hear that?" The sound of leaves and branches crunching could be heard, and as the moments passed it got closer. The two girls quickly jumped into a bush a few feet away as the gate opened to reveal Naruto and Hinata walking hand in hand. They were both wet, though their clothes were completely dry. Kumiko suspected that they had found someplace to swim. It would explain Naruto's excitement earlier. They saw Naruto smile widely at her. "See, I told you that we would have fun." "Yes, thank you, Naruto." Hinata's lips quirked slowly into a grin. Hinata hesitantly pulled him into a tight hug, letting him hold her for a moment. "I can't remember the last time I felt this happy. My mother died when my sister was born, and it changed my father." She paused. He wasn't nearly as nice as he had been before, and he wasn't very caring anymore. Mother used to cook, but after it was always a branch member." His eyes slowly became hard, and he always looked so angry and upset at everything. "He cares more about Hanabi, I think. I look more like Mother, and Hanabi is naturally gifted. I'm gifted as well, but I always freeze up in front of anyone except Father." "Hinata, I dash." "I'm not done telling you, Naruto." Hinata pulled back from him. "Once Father was belittling me in front of the council after Hanabi beat me and Kurinai-sensei stepped it. I just didn't want to harm my only sister. I just ran out crying, and Kurinai was furious with my father. I stayed with Sensei for about a week before my father came and apologized. Everything changed when you came back from your mission with your mom. Father has been very kind ever since Lady Kushina came back. I think it lets him think of Mother without being all alone. It helps that your mom spends times with him, I think." "Hinata," Naruto said sternly, "I didn't know that about your family. I'm sorry. I wasn't telling you for pity. I know. If you need to talk about it, I'm here for you. Okay?" "I'm sorry, Naruto." Hinata bit her lower lip. "I'm just a bit tired, and the world has been a bit upside down lately." He grabbed her arm. "Hinata, you look zony." "Yeah, I know. I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," he responded. He leaned down and kissed her on her cheek. "It's okay to feel weird sometimes. I feel weird most of the time. How about we go home? The sun's starting to set." Hinata forced a smile to her face and nodded to the path. "All right," Naruto said. Kumiko didn't hear the rest of their conversation as she and Haku moved quietly away from the path. It felt like they had intruded an intimate moment between the two. They kept walking briskly until they came across a small natural clearing. It was far enough away from the fence that Naruto and Hinata were out of earshot. "That was," Haku mumbled. "Yeah," she said. "Very personal." Haku leaned against a big boulder they had found. "I didn't know that about her mom, though. Hinata seems so nice. I feel like we shouldn't have heard that. My clan was different with a parent's death, but it was more like a tribe in ways. My parents died well after I had taken my role as Kyuubi. Dying is not a sad thing in my clan. It's an honor to move on to the next world. My parents weren't like that either." My mother was murdered by my father and well, I don't feel any grief about it. Being with Zabuza so long made my emotions numb. It's hard to feel things. Haku said. I can't believe Hinata doesn't have a mother. She's such a sweet girl and she cares so much. I can't imagine what it must be like. Kumiko said. And her poor sister too. Haku interjected. She must be pretty young still, and if Hinata's father is really that cold, it must be awful for them. I mean, Hinata said she was young when it happened. And I have seen Hayashi Hyuga. He is menacing. I wish we could help her, but what can we do? Nothing. Not without her knowing we were listening to their conversation, and I'd rather her not know about this. Kumiko sighed and ran her hand through her hair. We should head back to the village. Maybe get some dango? Sounds like a plan. Naruto, sweetheart. Kushina gently shook him out of his sleep. It's time to get out of bed and get ready for the day. Naruto groaned as he pulled his blanket over his head. Ahawa na. The silence made him feel completely at peace in that moment. Then the shaking started again. Naruto, you have to wake up now. No. She sighed. You're just like your father. He heard her leave the room and go down the stairs. It seemed like several minutes went by before she came back in the room. The lights turned on and then he felt the wooden spoon come down to whack him. Then again. Get out of bed. I've been up for an hour making you breakfast and it's not going cold just because you're tired. Naruto took her seriously this time and crawled from his bed to start getting ready. It took him very little time to find his clothing and get dressed. He found himself sitting at the wooden table in the kitchen with the three girls in minutes. Food was set out on the table and Kushina let everyone help themselves to the food. Naruto's head hurt, but it was better than having to wake up to an empty apartment without any food. Definitely better. Haku and Kumiko were good here too, Naruto thought. His mom loved having the two girls around and it made Naruto think that his parents would have had more children if they could have. If they would have had time. His mother really needed Haku and Kyubi. Naruto, your team is set to meet in half an hour. Are you ready to go? Not yet, but Sensei is always a few hours late. Oh, he won't keep that up for long. Minato would hang him by the neck if that continued. Kushina picked up the empty plates and brought them to the sink. What about you girls? Are you ready to go meet your new sensei? Finally. We haven't had much to do lately. Kumiko stretched. Haku nodded. Yes. I would like to serve the village with my powers. Kushina smiled at Haku, but it was almost a sad smile. Good luck then. You meet your sensei this afternoon, right? Naruto left before he could hear the rest of the conversation. He started his way to the training ground, walking instead of running because Kakashi was late anyways. There was no reason to rush when he could take his time and enjoy the morning air of the village. He picked up pace, enjoying himself. Around a corner, zigzag a person there, sidestep a person there, another corner. Slam! Naruto ran right into someone. They toppled and Naruto ended up laying over her. They were inches apart when he saw her eyes light up. Then her cheeks colored a deep rose. Naruto, you idiot! Get off her! The loudness of the boy's voice made him jump. Her teammates stood looking very protectively of their smaller teammate. Oh, Kiba. Hi and Naruto rolled his eyes and though as he tried to think of the other boy's name. Shino. How are you guys? Shino's demeanor visibly dropped. We were in the same academy class for years, Naruto, and you remember everyone's name except mine. You should remember your friends. His stomach dropped. Shino had always creeped him out even if he had enjoyed the rare conversation with him. Naruto just had trouble remembering him right away. Shino was as quiet as Hinata and he rarely spoke. He wasn't loud like Kiba or easy to remember like Shikamaru. Hey! Naruto said. Naruto, shouldn't you be with your team? Hinata glanced at her sulking teammate and frowned. We have to meet Kurenai-sensei soon. You're right, Naruto said. Oh, and I'll be over at your house at supper time because Mom wants you to come over. I'm sure Hayashi won't care. Just don't eat before. Mom's making kare raisu, so make sure you're hungry. By Shino and Kiba. Hinata watched as Naruto ran off, zoning out as he reached the edge of her vision. Naruto always stayed so happy, and now that he had his mom back, his smile was more real than she had ever seen it. Hinata. Kiba tapped her shoulder to get her attention. It's time to go meet Sensei about the Chunin exams. Naruto jumped down from the top pillar of the bridge next to Sasuke. He couldn't be more surprised to realize that Kakashi had shown up on time. Perhaps he shouldn't have taken the long way to get to their meeting spot. Naruto. Sakura immediately began yelling. Why the hell are you late? Kakashi-sensei told us to be here, and now we had to wait for you. Do you know how much of an inconvenience you are? You made Sasuke wait, and he has a busy day. Naruto frowned. He thought that maybe he would be able to work things through with his team, but it seemed like he wouldn't be able to handle it. Sakura had already started yelling at him, and Sasuke was as silent as ever. Really, could the two of them have no more courtesy for their teammate? Naruto glanced over to Kakashi, noting that the older ninja looked just as displeased with his team, though he had yet to say a word. When Sakura finally took a moment to breath, Kakashi grunted to catch their attention. I believe that the three of you have enough talent to participate in this year's Chunin exam. You haven't been ninja very long, but I believe that you are all capable of handling yourselves. He looked pointedly at Naruto. You should all read through this form and make the decision yourselves. If you do not feel comfortable participating, then you should wait until the next one. Sensei. Sakura hesitated when he handed her the paper. What are the Chunin exams? Well, Sakura, they are an opportunity for genin of any village to be promoted to Chunin. Early on, the villages decided this would be the easiest way to avoid one village from having an army much bigger than the others. The exams started just after the Third Shinobi War. Any other questions? No, Sensei. Naruto looked down at the paper and began to read. Chunin exams, Konoha. By signing this document, the following genin __ assumes the responsibility. Naruto skipped the rest of the page and skimmed through the rest of the document. It basically was a waiver that said he could not do anything if he sustained any injuries from the exams. He didn't care so much about that, of course. Then it went on to outline that he would advance through the stages and only become a Chunin if, when the observing ninja or daimyo thought that he expressed the right qualities to become a Chunin. Then he signed it. He knew that no one would join if the contract was that bad, so once he had signed the form, he handed it back to Kakashi. Just as he was about to ask if they had any other plans for training, Sakura gasped. I can't do this. I can't. I won't compete. I don't want to die yet. I'm only 12. My parents wouldn't know what to do if I got hurt. Sensei. Calm down, Sakura, Kakashi said. It's not nearly as bad as the waiver sounds. The tests are almost always safe enough. As long as you aren't stupid, nothing will happen. Are you serious? Naruto hissed. If you don't compete, then I won't have a chance to compete. They are taken as a squad, and if there aren't 3 of us, then I won't be allowed, and neither will Sasuke. I can't believe you're so weak that you will hold us back. How could you do this? Isn't it you that wants to get strong and stop being a burden? Enough, Naruto, Sasuke said. His hands were clushed around the form, eyes darker than usual. A weakling like her would only get killed. Boys, calm down. Kakashi touched both of their shoulders. You can both find separate teams if she doesn't wish to compete. There's nothing wrong with waiting. How old were you, Sensei? It doesn't matter, Naruto. Kakashi sighed as Naruto glared at him. I was 6 when I became a Chunin, but the world was different back then. I don't want to, Sakura shouted again. Maybe next time, but I just want to be a kid for a little while longer. I don't want to kill anyone. Before Naruto or Sasuke could say anything to her, Kakashi put his hand up. Sakura, you are dismissed. I'll schedule a meeting with the Hokage after the exams are over to see where you stand with Naruto and Sasuke. And boys, I would suggest you go to the Hokage and begin to try and find a team with missing members. Yes, Sensei, Naruto said. I understand. Now, boys, Go and heed my words before it's too late to compete. We will have no more training sessions until after the first exam. Kakashi disappeared in a swirl, leaving the three genin alone. Sakura sat with her eyes downcast, looking almost guilty. You know what? Naruto crossed his arms at her. Fuck you, Sakura. You always were weaker than I am. I very well hope I'll never be on another mission with you. And Sasuke, I hate you too. Once the exams are over, I will never be on the same team as you two again. Naruto turned on his heel, and he could hear Sakura beginning to cry. As he walked away, he heard her start to sob and he felt guilty. Maybe she didn't deserve his resentment, but it sure as hell made him feel better. If he had to find another team, maybe Haku and Kumiko didn't have a third member. It shouldn't be too hard to find them because he had a strange connection with Kumiko. It was as if he could feel her presence near him, and he assumed it was because of the seal they had shared. Sometimes he wondered how he would feel if the constant pulse of her chakra left him. After all, his chakra was still sealed away inside him for the most part. He closed his eyes and tried to pinpoint her, and found it almost easily. It was nearing lunchtime by the time found the girls. In the crowd, they had been easy to spot. The two stuck out in the hordes of civilians. Haku, Kumi. Naruto ran up to the two girls, who were talking to another person he didn't recognize. They walked away quickly after he approached. Oh, Naruto, Haku grinned. We just had our first meeting with our sensei. I don't think she really wants to be our teacher, but the Hokage assigned her to us. Her name is Yugao Dash. Are you going to be in the Chunin exams? He couldn't help himself as the question came from his mouth. His lips quirked into a smile when they glanced at each other. The longer they took the answer, anxiety settled into his stomach. Not this year, Kumiko finally said. Sensei said that we're eligible, but since we don't have a third member for our team. Yeah, you do. You definitely have a third member. He gave them a thumb up. I need a team, and together we make three. Sakura was being an idiot again, and she didn't want to compete, so I'm free. Naruto, are you sure? Haku pushed her hair out of her face. That means you'll have to spend a lot of time practicing with us. I would personally love to have you as a teammate. That way we could all possibly be Chunin before the year ends. Kumiko started laughing, a horrendous yet natural laugh. Oh yes, Naruto, that would be perfect. I'm sure. I would rather be on this team than one with Sasuke or Sakura. Kami too, am sure. I would rather be on this team than one with Sasuke or Sakura. Kami, I really dislike them. A hand suddenly touched Naruto's shoulder, causing all three genin to jump. I take it you have found a team? Good for you, Naruto. He turned to see Kakashi standing above him. Oh, sensei, you scared me. Yes, I found a team already. I just have to get the Hokage's approval and then we're going to dominate the exam. Kumiko grinned. Yes, we will. Just give us a few good days of training and then we will be ready. Sensei? Naruto asked. Do you know if Sasuke has found a team yet? He has. There was another genin team who needed a third member and he managed to snag it. He seems very excited about the exams. No doubt. I am too, Naruto said. He looked over to his two friends. Sensei, can I possibly talk to you alone for a bit? I have a few questions. Of course, Naruto. I don't really have anything to do today anyways. The two walked away from the girls, down the busy streets of Konoha. It was a lovely day out. The sky didn't have a cloud in it, and the sun kept the air warm. Even though he had given up on Team 7, the day was great. I know that the last few weeks have been rough for everyone, Sensei, and I really did consider trying to put everything behind us and become a better team, but I just can't stand either of them. No matter how hard I try, Sakura just goes after Sasuke, and Sasuke doesn't want to be a team. He just wants power for himself. I understand that feeling. You know, I was once like Sasuke. I didn't appreciate my teammates and I was an ass to everyone. My father died when I was young and I thought he was a disgrace to ninja, but as I grew up I realized I was wrong about everything. Kakashi said, Don't think I'm trying to get you to forgive Sasuke, but just think about it. You are both so young and you both have great potential, and one day you may just realize that it could have been something you worked out. I didn't know that about you. Not many do. Do you still think that you wouldn't have wanted Sakura and Sasuke on your team if you could have chosen? Kakashi didn't reply right away. Honestly, yes. Not because they're bad students, but because it's ripping our team apart. I wanted my team to be close and never face the hardships that I did. I can't imagine what Minato felt when we fought. I can't imagine either. I know that it's probably selfish, but I really wish that you could be my sensei still. They were nearing the village gates, headed towards the training grounds. Me too. Do you think that after the exams are all said and done with that, maybe you could be the sensei to a team with me, Kumi, and Haku? I'm not certain, Naruto. They have their own teacher now. Haku said that she was a jounin who didn't want to be a teacher, though. Her name was... It was Yugao. She's only teaching them on Hokage's orders. Do you think that maybe you could teach me and them instead, Kakashi-sensei? We'll have to see, Naruto. That's all up to the Hokage. But it isn't fair. Kakashi didn't speak for several moments, as if he were taking the time to process every word he spoke. You know, Naruto, I don't think it's fair either, but the Hokage is the leader of our village for a reason, and I would rather not question his judgment so openly. But Kakashi, don't you think that it's ridiculous to force a team together when all they do is fight and argue? Seems like a bad idea to me. After all, look what happened on the last mission. We could barely handle ourselves when you were incapacitated. I think that if I had teammates that would actually work with me to get stronger, I would be much happier and a better ninja. I'll speak with the Hokage about it. Okay? Would it be alright if you helped me train a bit before the exams? We haven't really been training lately, and I want to make sure I'm ready for the Chunin exams. Of course. I'll send a message to you later. Thanks, Kakashi-sensei. I have to go home in a while for dinner, so I'll see you later. Naruto waved to his teacher as he ran towards the village. The day was nearing its end with the late afternoon. His walk with Kakashi had lasted much longer than he had anticipated, but really, he had little else to do. He would start training with Kumi and Haku in the next few days, and he had to go find Hinata for supper, but outside of that, he just wanted to spend some quality time with his mother and friends. He went through the village gates within a few minutes. Then he passed the civilian market and found himself making his way down the winding paths that lead to the Hyuga compound. It felt odd coming to this part of the city. The richer housing developments and clan compounds made for a very well-kept and rich environment. It was nothing like the dark, dingy area he had grown up in. The Hyuga compound lay at the end of the road, its gates tall and imposing, almost daring anyone to try to get inside. He could see the outline of chakra wards from some ways away. It wasn't often that a clan still used ancient ninjutsu like that. Seals were decently common, but not ninjutsu. He could see the two guards on duty as he came closer to the gate. Hello, I'm here to pick up Hinata. My mom should have told Hayashi by now. The man merely held out his hand. We have had no orders to allow an outsider in our home this day. Oh, come on. Just go get Hinata or Hayashi and they'll tell you. Hayashi is currently out. Then just get Hinata. We do not subject Our Lady to common people. It would be best for you to leave. Naruto groaned at this. The men tensed and he started rummaging in his bag for something his mother had given him. They probably expected him to pull out a kunai or something, but he pulled out a small scrap of fabric that had the Nameke's house symbol embedded on it. Look, I'm not the common person. Just go get Hinata now, or I will complain to Hayashi about being interrogated when trying to pick up my betrothed for dinner with my mother, Lady Kushina. He didn't like the idea that he could pull nobility from his father's name, but he felt tired and wanted to go home. I will send for her. Naruto waited for several minutes for Hinata to walk out. Instead of her usual jacket or training uniform, she was wearing a quarter-length sleeve dress that looked formal yet casual. Something that he would definitely expect of an heiress. She looked like someone he would hear about living in a castle, but he supposed, in a way, she was royalty. Her father held the most prestigious spot on the council, and he bet that she had a governess for most of her childhood. He had never really put much thought to her title. One day she would be the most powerful member in such a noble clan. That meant that he would also have to learn the ins and outs of politics, which really was a scary thought. "Hinata, you look really pretty, but you didn't need to dress up that much," Naruto said. Hinata's cheeks flushed. It is against custom to eat in your future mother-in-law's house without wearing something dressy. My father would be upset if I wore something casual and went against our custom. If father were here, I would be wearing a formal kimono, but I managed to get ready without his knowledge. You look very nice, so I can't complain." She smiled up at him with a broad grin that made him feel like he had just won a prize. Hinata would have been a very, very prized companion if she were available when she was older. He wondered if Hayashi would have set her up with a nobleman's son. Maybe even on of the grandsons of the daimyo. "I hope you're hungry. Mom always cooks way too much food." Naruto reached down and took her hand. "You haven't been to my house yet, have you? It's more of a compound though." "I'll be honored to see it, Naruto." Hinata looked down. "I can't wait to try your mother's kare raisu. I'm sure it will be delicious." Chapter 7. Uff! Naruto loudly groaned. How can Sasuke have a stupid team? Every freaking two-person team probably jumped at the chance to get Duckbutt on their team. Probably kissed his ass too if he asked. And of course, he had to be so smug about it. "Don't worry about a person like that, Naruto," Haku said. "He just wanted to rub it in that he had a team. Didn't you see his sneer? He was obviously jealous." "More like suspicious," Kumi interjected. "I tell you, he's suspicious that we were both accepted as ninja, and suddenly we're a brand new team that needed a new member. And then Naruto just miraculously found his way on our team. He always gives me the cold shoulder." Naruto continued, not really listening to either girl. "He doesn't do anything and he has no friends, and all he ever talked about was revenge this, revenge that. And I thought that I was finally getting through the damned shell of his, and then he had to go and act like an ass again." "Oh, come on," Kumiko said. "He was never going to let you in. He even smiled once when we finished the tree climbing exercise. He helped me back. And we had an eating contest and I thought there had been a breakthrough. Oh, but Uchihas are better than someone like me. Can't sully their shoes now, can they?" "You're a better person," Haku said. "No one is good enough for him. No one is good enough to grace his fucking presence. And everything just cared about that stupid clan symbol on his back and his charming features. That's what Sakura always said. Oh, he's so charming." Sasuke always acted like he didn't care about his looks, but he really did like the attention he got for being Konoha's star. He's nowhere near as talented as Itachi, except for the fact that Sasuke didn't murder his whole clan. "You're going too far, Naruto. Don't say things like that to make yourself feel better." He acted like he didn't hear her. He always acts like his brother is the reason that he can't be friends with anyone. He acts like we will all betray him like that asshole did. We are from Konoha though. We are taught that everyone's life is sacred and we have to protect each other like family. He knew that I care so much and he just dash. "Naruto, just forget about the dumb duck butt and let's go punch some things." Kumiko laced her arm through his. "No more yelling about him. More punching trees until you feel better." She started to walk but was stopped when he didn't move at all. "Why do we have to train? We're ready." Naruto's voice held a distinctive whine to it. "We are going to just dominate, I know. Kumi, you're literally a demon incarnate. And Haku, you're just really fucking powerful. We need to learn how to work better as a team," Kumiko yelled. "Idiot. We have an obligation to better enhance our synergetic proficiency." Haku huffed. At his confused look, she rolled her eyes. "Serious? We need to make it so that we can fight and not run into each other constantly. Like Kumi said, teamwork." "But we have good sin or whatever already," Naruto said. "Not good enough. We need techniques that we can use together. Things that normal teams wouldn't expect from a group of young genin. I mean, we really don't look that scary." "She's right, Naruto. Can you imagine if you went to face a team with two pretty small girls and a young boy? They'll have size advantage most likely. We're so young and Haku and I look pretty delicate. Okay, 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 I get it. He wrapped his other arm around Haku and started dragging the two girls off towards the private training ground. We can just go train and that'll be that, alright? The training ground was empty when they got there. Naruto had never been on this exact training ground, but it looked almost exactly like the rest. Haku walked calmly to the middle of the field before she turned back to the two. Okay, we all have weaknesses and we haven't really worked together for long, so we really should work and see what we need to improve on. I know I need to work on my stamina because I won't be able to keep up with you two, and that will hurt us as a team. Makes sense. Naruto nodded. I would kind of like to work on better control of my chakra. And I have a new bloodline and I haven't tried anything with yet, and I can't find any information where to start. I found a few chakra control exercises that should help with my control, but I have no idea where to go from there. Kumiko raised her hand. My chakra coils are all messed up. I think I need to use my chakra a lot more so that I can heal them and figure out how to manage my chakra. Plus, I need my coils to be able to make the change to my other form. I think that I could turn into my fox form with enough practice. So, what do you think we should work on first? Naruto asked, looking between the two girls. Why don't we spar first just to see how we need to work on? Haku said. The third person can watch and give suggestions. Once we meet with our sensei more, she can help us more. I asked Kakashi to take over our team after the exams. Naruto told her, making both girls stop in their tracks. Don't seem too eager. Naruto, that's great. Haku grinned. I mean, our sensei would be fine, but she lacks luster. Kumiko finished. We can figure all that stuff out later. Let's spar. Naruto and Kumi stood in the middle of the clearing waiting for Haku to give the signal. Now, remember, Haku began. Taijutsu only. We're working on figuring out each other's fighting style so we can coordinate as a team better. Jutsu will be later. Begin. Naruto threw his fist at Kumi, who simply ducked to the side of his arm and pushed his hand towards the ground. He threw his other first. She dodged. He grunted as her hand slammed into his stomach, knocking his breath out. He staggered back, waiting for another blow, but it never came. Naruto took a deep breath, half expecting another hit, but when he looked up, Kumiko was standing, as if bored. You okay? Yeah, keep attacking. Give it all you have. As you wish. He straightened his pose, matching her stance. He advanced toward his opponent, his hands raised to guard his face, his body relaxing into the sparring stance he'd practiced for years at the academy. Kumiko feinted a kick, switching to her other foot at the last moment for a closer attack, and he jumped back, her heel barely grazing the edge of his nose. He cursed under his breath, feeling adrenaline pump his heart. The crunch of her fist connecting with his jaw ached before the hit through his back. He groaned. Of course, he wouldn't be able to beat her. He forced himself to stand, the metallic taste in his mouth becoming apparent. He dodged a half-hearted punch from her, which allowed him to drop and sweep her feet out from under her. She jumped as his feet connected her ankles, throwing her way off balance so she landed on the ground. Her eyes went wide. Hadn't expected that. Kumi started laughing. That was fantastic, Naruto. His jaw ached, probably was swollen pretty badly and may even bruised. Yeah, I need a break now. Already? Kumiko's lips quirked. Haku and I can go now. You're okay to watch? Yeah. Naruto waved his arms. I'm fine. Go ahead and I'll watch. The girls lined up across from each other, Haku dropping into a lower stance than Kumiko. Okay, you can start, Naruto called when he sat against a tree trunk. Neither moved for a moment. Then Haku attacked. She was fast. Her hands were almost a blur as Kumiko averted as many strikes as she could. Haku was gaining momentum, pushing her partner back with every third strike. Kumiko kicked, causing Haku to stop her barrage of strikes to block in time. The sheer power behind the kick was enough to move her back a few inches. Kumiko's face contorted in pain briefly as her shin connected, but as soon her feet hit the ground, she was back to blocking Haku's attack. Haku was much faster. Naruto could tell that just from watching. Her attacks weren't very powerful though. The sheer quantity of attacks was forcing Kumiko back, not power. And the few hits Kumiko got in were sluggish in comparison, but they were much more powerful. A round sweep with her feet sent Haku jumping back. Her breathing came in deep waves, and sweat glistened on her skin. That didn't stop her from jumping back into the match. Kumiko dodged a punch, sidestepping it so that she could grasp Haku's wrist. With one fluid motion, she twisted her wrist, lowered her center of gravity, and then sent Haku flying over her shoulder and onto the ground. Fuck! Haku groaned as her breath left her. She stayed on the ground almost a minute, trying to catch her breath. "You're fast," Kumiko said, sitting beside her friend. "You just get tired really easy." Naruto stood up and made his way to the two. "Let's have Haku and I spar another day. I'd personally rather train for a bit before supper." "I agree," Haku said. "Let's see what we think we should work on then." Kumiko had undone Haku's bun and was now braiding it. "I didn't get to watch, but this is what I saw. Naruto, you don't think. You just do. That'll end up getting you killed one day. You really need to work on your control. Chakra control exercises will probably be the best so that you can use your chakra better while fighting." Honestly, it was like you don't use chakra to enhance your strength or speed at all. "Wait, you can use your chakra to enhance your muscles. Oh boy, did anyone ever teach you anything?" Haku giggled at the two, her eyes shutting. "Anyways, Naruto, I think you did better than she thinks. You have a lot of natural power behind your muscles, you just haven't completely figured that out yet." "I know," he said. "I can last a long time, but I need to pay more attention." "Exactly," Haku said. "And Kumi, you really need to work on your speed. You aren't used to this form and you aren't as fast. You have to work with your human form more. You need to get faster." "Haku's right. That's the only thing that kept you from matching Haku." Naruto nodded. "You're right," Kumiko nodded. "It's just really hard." "Since I'm the only one that watched you, Haku," Naruto started, "you have to work on your strength. You get a lot of hits in, but they don't do much. You rely on sheer speed. If you can actually deal damage when you hit, you won't have to rely on your bloodline in fights. And your stamina too. You always finish everything quickly. That's because you get tired easy. You can barely last 10 minutes. I have thought of working on my stamina. I was thinking about wearing weights in my training gear so that it naturally happened. There's some chakra ones that allows the user to set the weight." Naruto nodded. "Yep. And I can keep working on the tree climbing exercise, and I'll ask Kakashi Seniai if there's anything else I can do." "The water walking exercise," Haku told him. "That will be the best thing for you to learn." "So, it's like the tree climbing one but with water?" "Yes, but you have to make your chakra fluid because water isn't a solid force. You have to learn to feel the waves and adjust your chakra. And it wouldn't hurt for Kumi to do it with you either. Her coils aren't used to her human form yet." "These are all things we can do in our free time," he said. "We should try and figure out things that will help us as a group. Maybe we can figure out some ways to complement each other." "Good idea, Naruto," Kumiko said. "There might just be a way to combine our jutsu. Like maybe you can use your shadow clones in Haku's jutsu somehow. That way it wouldn't be detrimental on her if someone figured it out. Or maybe a combination jutsu that became more powerful when we all put our chakra in it." "I would have to experiment and test on my bloodline," Haku said. "But with Naruto's bloodline, I feel like there is a possibility for that. Since he has access to every element, supposedly, I may be able to teach him my bloodline to some degree and we might be able to use it together." "That would be so cool," Naruto laughed. "Imagine Sasuke's face if we did that." I need to go to the library and study it more, though. Haku touched his shoulder, bringing him out of the thought. I don't know much about team jutsu, but I feel like it would be very difficult to achieve. Once we figure out ways that make it possible, we would have to work on it under supervision of someone who understands it just in case something goes wrong. Naruto's heart rose. This was what it was like to be on a real team. Haku and Kumi didn't yell at him for asking questions, and if he didn't know something, he felt like they would do their best to help him figure it out. This was what teamwork was. Teamwork wasn't what he had with Sasuke and Sakura. You shouldn't be hit or yelled at by your friends. They shouldn't control you. Friends should be there to support you and give you what you need. Naruto. Haku waved a hand in front of his face. We're going to be done for the day, so Kumi and I can go research before supper. We'll see you later, okay? Let's meet at outside the library in 2 hours. What are you doing, you little punk? The man's deep voice contrasted greatly with the cat-shaped hat and makeup the man wore. He picked up the child by the collar. Sorry. I was playing with my friends. I didn't mean to run into you. The boy screamed as he started crying. His friends stood behind him, cowering in fear. Kankuro, stop, put the boy down. Do you want him mad at you? The blonde girl next to the man looked around, her eyes wide with fear. Just let me teach him a quick lesson. Kankuro's eyes were filled with a dark gleam that had the boy squirming. The man only tightened his grip. The boy started crying again, as if he had accepted that he would die here. The man pulled his fist back, eyes furrowed as he readied his punch. He took a deep breath and started to swing, but a strong grip on his forearm stopped him. Excuse me, you're a sand ninja here for the Chunin exams? No? The boy tightened his grip, waiting for Kankuro to nod. Good, because I thought we were in Konoha. It is against the law to harm minors here, especially if that child is the grandson of the Hokage. You would do well to drop the boy now before I personally report this incident to the Hokage and have your team disqualified from the exam. Kankuro didn't move, as if he were sizing up the newcomer. I said drop the Hokage's grandson now or else. Or else WH-. Kumiko flared her chakra from behind Naruto. Or else I will tear you limb from limb. Kankuro dropped the boy, who scurried back to his friends. Naruto's gaze drifted to a tree behind the two sand ninja. Hey you, redhead. Keep your team in line. Konoha has very little tolerance for crap like this. The two sand ninja turned quickly, eyes wide. Obviously, neither had felt their teammates' chakra presence. Naruto glanced over his shoulder at his comrades, glad that they were consoling the three children as he handled the situation. Oh, don't worry. The boy had a deep voice that felt almost demonic. I will keep my siblings out of trouble. What is your name? Name's Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Naruto grinned at him. And I know who you are. Famed Gaara of the Sand. You don't have to worry though. I know all about your little friend. We have a lot in common. He saw a flash in the green eyes of the boy. Naruto Namikaze, huh? Mother will like your blood. Naruto motioned for his team and the children to follow him. You have a lot of issues to work though, but I really hope we get to fight in the exam. That was just creepy. Naruto shivered. That kid has something really wrong with him. I could just feel the power radiating off of him. He houses the Shikaku, Kumiko said, brushing her hair as they sat in the living room. She was always one of the more bloodthirsty beasts, not as powerful as I am, but much more bloodthirsty. She always wanted to be bathed in blood. That kid will be very dangerous. His beast is still very powerful, and I still haven't regained all my strength. What do you mean you aren't as strong as you were? Well, from what I gathered, your father sealed half of my chakra inside you and half inside himself. So, when he sealed your mother's chakra inside the seal, it allowed the other half of my chakra to be sealed with hers. I had no control over that half. When your seal was tampered with by those men, it released the other half of my chakra into a physical body that you can see now. The other half of my chakra is still inside you, ready to use at your disposal. I am technically under your seal still. I bet if you really worked at it, there is a way for you to fully control me, even now that I am unsealed. Damn, he mumbled. I don't want to control you, but can I still use the power? I don't have access to it, so feel free. Haku made a disbelieving noise. You still have to control it though. Don't get cocky. Oh, I probably will get cocky, he said. But I can promise that I won't go off the deep end like that Gaara kid. The first punch barely glanced Naruto's chin. He noticed too late that it was a feint, though, when the second punch doubled him over and expelled the last bit of choked air from his ramen-weighted belly. It was a heck of a shot. Outside of having the wind knocked from him, which he always hated, Naruto noticed a fair amount of pain with the chakra-enhanced punch from his teammate. A hit to the face, yes, or even the kidney would have been alright, but a gut shot was no good. Fortunately, he was used to it all. A ninja was the blonde. He had been training with these particular teammates for a few weeks already. He stood straight, eyes bulging with rage, and stared at his opponent. A red-haired girl wearing a perfect smile, right in her little eyes. She stood tall and proud. She was too confident. Naruto had him where he wanted him. You, little. Naruto took a lurching step forward with each word. On the third, he swung, bitch! The slightly taller girl took another swing, rage taking her. Naruto shoved the girl off. He threw a side kick at her. 3 more. They hit their target. She fell cursing as she went. She got back up with blinding speed. Her breath left not wavered. Naruto gasped as he felt the girl take her chakra and not heal his rib. The pain was unreal. Click. Naruto listened to the sound of his teeth clack together. His world went dark. His last thought, Kumi. Naruto woke up under some tree with an ache both in his head and his ego. He blew a small butterfly off his nose. His head was already starting to leave as he felt the Bijou chakra coursed through his veins. He took a deep intake of breath as Naruto became aware of the world around him. The smell of clean and purity that was known as grass inflated his nostrils. The sky, bright and blue. Not a cloud up there. Birds chirped their marvelous melodies, each clashing in brilliant minor keys. Naruto could feel the soft wet ground, along with tree trunk, pressing into his body. Naruto let loose a smile. Haku wiped the dried blood from his chin. Her signature bun up for training. Her face held a look that would have scared most people, but Naruto knew it was just her pout. You just had to go and get knocked out by Kumiko, didn't you? His voice was soft but held a tone he couldn't identify. He knew she wanted to train too, but Naruto crinkled his face. He looked up at the sun and judged the time to be about the time his team switched to working on combo moves. He smiled at the girls that had quietly taken on a conversation. Blue eyes looked into red ones. Kumiko, since Rinnegan allows the user to have all of the chakra type releases, what if I combine some of them? He received a confused facial expression. Hear me out. Haku mixes water and wind. So maybe if I do the same thing, but with Rinnegan's ability I could create something new. Haku butted in. That could work. It would definitely give us a hand in the exams. They all three agreed on one thing. They needed help. The Chunin exams were a mere week away and not enough time to develop a new jutsu. For now, they had to wait. The next week passed by like the bat of an eye. Each member of the team emerged stronger. Teamwork improved, as did personal skill. Soft pads of shoes made noise as the three went to the first exam. Haku reached for Kumi's hand. Her grip was strong as she held the girl who acted like a younger sister to her. A sigh escaped the group as they pushed the first door open. A commotion came from the second floor. Investigations occurred. As they reached the floor, a boy with jet black hair resembling a bull stopped a kick from the ever-arrogant Sasuke Uchiha. His movement was almost faster than the eye could see. Sasuke scoffed and left the loser. The boy with the strangely big eyebrows followed after him. Oi, Uchiha, why don't you fight with me here and now? It was more of a challenge than a question. His face was almost stoic though, his dark eyes burned. The next few words escaped the group. A fight between the two started quickly. Soon, the three grew bored at watching Sasuke get beat that they ended up just leaving. Kumiko entered the room to the Chunin exams first. Her chakra coils still burned from having so much chakra. She felt her teammates' knees slight buckle at the killing intent that was focused at the door. She just smiled. "Hey, Naruto." A kid she didn't recognize ran up to the group. His hair was a wild mane of brown and a white dog sat atop it. A bug user followed with Hinata. "Oh, hi Kiba." The two quickly conversed in whatever they liked to talk about. A blonde girl dragged a boy that was eating and a bored boy towards their group. "Naruto Baka? Where's Sasuke-kun and forehead?" "Team 7 doesn't exist." His voice held little emotion. Naruto's chakra slightly flared as he tried to calm his nerves and not show his ability. Naruto tensed as a presence approached them. His chakra finally calmed as he controlled the emotions coursing through his gut. "This means all the Genin rookies are taking the exam." "Eh?" His voice sent shivers down spines. Ino answered, "Who are you?" Acting all haughty. "I'm Kabuto Yakushi. Anyways, look around you." Kumiko did just that. Most people in the room had eyes turned the way the rookies were. Her companions looked around wide-eyed, shaking from the intensity of the looks. He continued, "Since you're all rookies, let me give you some advice." He pulled out a few cards. "These are cards I have collected. They are ninja info cards. To put it simple, I have information burned into them. I spent 4 years gathering this information. Now, is there anyone you want information? A village? Hair color? Anything? The information, though, might not be complete. Sabaku no Gaara of the Sand, and Rock Lee of the Leaf." Naruto had fished his memory of names. Kabuto pushed up his glasses. "Oh, you even know the names. That makes it quick. Here they are. First is Rock Lee. He trailed off. He is 1 year senior to you guys. Mission info, 20D rank, 11C rank. His squad leader is Might Guy. Teammates Tenten and Niji Hyuga." Naruto's eyes drifted to Hinata. "This year his taijutsu has improved a lot, but it seems like he can't use chakra." Next is Gaara of the Desert. His missions are 8C rank and even AB rank. His card is lacking a lot of information, but it seems like, oh wow, he has never come back from a mission even with 1 scratch. Kabuto put up his cards and almost immediately fell over, spewing his guts. "Sound shinobi, no fighting outside of the exams. Don't make me disqualify you." A booming voice came over. The voice continued, "Now everyone take a number and go sit down. Now." Soon the group of all shinobi had been seated. Many Chunin or maybe even Jounin sat about the edges of the room. "Hinata!" Naruto gasped, slightly seeing who he had sat by. The man up front yelled again, "Listen here. This group seems to be unlucky this year." A booming laugh. "You got me as your test instructor. Ibiki Marino is the name. Now, let me explain the rules." "Hello, Hinata." Naruto looked at the girl next to him. He smiled widely, happy that he was by a friend. Though he was completely calm to the average person, inside he was freaking out. What if he didn't pass part 1 of the exam? He couldn't let down Haku and Kaneko. They were his friends and maybe even more if he so desired. They were obviously head over heels for him. Anyone with eyes could see that. He responded in kind, "How are you today, Naruto?" She flushed, as was the usual expression of her character. She had a history with Naruto after the last few months. Well, actually Hinata had a history with him before then when he saved her from a group of other students who found it funny to destroy the morale of the silent girl. "I'm alright, a bit nervous is all." Naruto scratched the back on his head. "The exams will be fun, I know, but I can't help but wonder why they're so hard to pass. I don't intend to be a genin the rest of my career, but well, you know." She nodded and kept her gaze in the table in front of them. This was the closest she had been to him for more than a few moments, and he was speaking with her like an old friend. It was a joyous day in the young Hyuga's life. The protector called attention, yet again explaining the point system. He acted as though cheating were a game. If you get caught you lose, but if you don't, well then that was swell and you would move on. Ibiki didn't right out say that, but anyone with common sense should be able to understand the underlying meaning. Naruto tensed as the paper was set before him. The yell to begin sounded and his eyes trailed the first question. Question 1. If a ninja entered the battlefield to find themselves surrounded by an enemy and the team captured, what do you do? Then, relate the circumstances in which the enemy offer to allow your team freedom in return for information. He blanched. His stomach hurt. What did this even mean? Shouldn't you always save your teammates? No, it depends on the nation. Those who abandon a mission are trash, but those who abandon friends are worse than trash. It was a moral question, but he felt that it should be less difficult. The rest of the questions asked about angles and other mission issues. He didn't understand any of them and really didn't care to. As long as he answered the last question, he would be fine. He ran a hand through his hair. This exam was much harder than it should be. Naruto mumbled a curse as his eyes trailed over the groups of genin. Team Guy was using mirrors to help each other. Team 8 was each using their Kekkei Genkis, and Team 10 was using Ino and Shikamaru's family Justu to their advantage. The hour seemed to tick by at the slowest rate it possible could. A sand genin left for the bathroom and Naruto let his eyes trail after him. There was something going on there. He didn't care to find out. Naruto let his test remain empty. Naruto, Hinata's soft voice brought him out of his thoughts. He hadn't really been paying attention. Do you want to, my test? Her words were obviously shy and timid. He thought over it, thanking her a bit louder than necessary. He turned her down because Naruto really did not want to be the reason she was eliminated from the exam. Kiba and Shino would kill him. She looked away blushing and Naruto kept his eyes on her. Had she always been so timid? Why was she suddenly so cute? Kumiko sat a few rows back from the duo. She scoffed when she was handed the exam. Who did they think she was? A genin? Of course they did. No one knew about her extraction or how she held thousands of years' worth of knowledge, of course. She just hoped that Naruto wouldn't screw this up. She really did not believe that she could handle any more D-rank missions. They were trivial and boring. Any child could easily handle them. She rolled her eyes and began to slowly write a detailed response. Oh, how she wanted to burn the stupid exam paper. It wasn't even the fact that there was a written exam, it was the fact that they obviously wanted everyone to cheat. The first question was ridiculous, and only meant to make one reflect on their village's morals. Kumi thought it would be easier to see who should be here without making a test this obvious. Haku found herself in a similar situation as Naruto. She had been taught for years that shinobi were tools, nothing else. But recently, those values had been changing inside her. She clamped her hand around the pencil. Maybe this exams was more than what it seemed. The rest of the questions were simple, all dealing with where you should throw a shuriken to win. All Chunin level material. All too soon for most people, the test period was over, and Ibiki was yelling at the group to drop their pencils. He calmly walked among the rows, just as strict and imposing as ever. He turned suddenly. First, for this 10th question, you must decide whether you will take it or not. If you choose not to, your point will be reduced to 0 and you'll fail along with your teammates. And the other rule is that if you choose to take it and answer incorrectly, that person will lose the right to ever take the Chunin selection exam again. Several negative sounds came from the group. There was tension there. Several long moments passed, and several teams were disqualified. Naruto started to raise his hands, knowing both of his teammates were thinking of quitting. The pressure was too much. Don't underestimate me. I will not run. I'll take it even if I am a genin forever. I will myself become a Hokage anyway, so I don't care. I am not afraid. I will follow my unbending words. That's my ninja way. Ibiki's eyes widened at that. Then he smirked. Well, this kid has blasted away everyone's worries. In times, information is more important than life, and on missions and the battlefield, people risk their lives to get their hand on. If the enemy or third person notices you, there is no guarantee that the information will be accurate. Important information in your hands can be a powerful weapon for your comrades and for the village. Seeing no one wanting to quit, he continued. Let me explain the 10th question. The take it or not take it decision. Obviously, these were painful choices. Those who choose later fail along with their teammates. Those who choose to take it could lose the chance to ever take the test again. A true leap of faith. How about these two choices? Say you guys become Chunins. Your mission is to steal a secret document. The amount of ninjas, their abilities, etc. is unknown to you, and of course there could be traps set all around you. Now, do you accept or not? Because you don't want to die, because your comrades can be hurt. Can you avoid the dangerous mission? The answer is no. Congratulations on passing the first test. No matter what the danger, there are missions you can't avoid. The ability to be courageous and survive any hardship. This is an ability needed to become a Chunin captain. Those who can't put their destinies on the line, who cling to the uncertain future of "there's always next year," and then walk away from their chance. Those piece of trash who can only make such cowardly choices don't have the right to become a Chunin. That's how I feel. At that moment, Anko burst through the window with a banner behind her. Come on, you whelps. It's time for the second test. She paused. Ha! You left so many teams this year. Ibiki pushed aside the banner and grumbled. You're early again, Anko. The Genin this year are rather strong. They shared a chuckle before turning back to the classroom. Let's go. I have a job to do. And you guys are making it really slow. She started out the classroom door and waited for the group. Anko Mitarashi led the groups of young ninja through the streets of Konoha with much ease. It was completely silent as a terrible, foreboding atmosphere carried the genin of many different ages through the usually busy streets. The village, she noticed, had a severe lack of people. It happened every time the Hidden Leaf hosted the exams. Civilians were more than weary, and they had right to be. Her eyes fell on the young Hyuga, who walked closely behind Naruto, alongside her two teammates. It was strangely quiet, eerie almost. If the village was eerie, the forest stunk of murder. Because of the woman staring at her, Hinata couldn't help but divert her attention to the ground. She quickly forgot about the menacing trees in front of her. As the group neared a condensed section of trees, Akamaru jumped up at the dark-haired girl, begging to be carried. She complied, much to Kiba's bane and annoyance. Good boy, she whispered, trying not to giggle as the pup gave her a kiss with his tongue. Hinata patted his head with another small laugh and told him to get down. He ran around her a few times, barking at her every so often and tugging at the fabric around her ankles. She turned to Kiba and started to say something, but she was cut off by Anko screaming them. Shut it! Anko was looking at Naruto, whom of which had a cut streaking across his cheek. A sound ninja took a step behind Naruto and handed Anko her kunai back. Hinata didn't trust him. Some gut feeling made her want to get as far away from the genin as possible. What? Naruto looked wide-eyed at Anko. He gripped his cheek, smearing the blood. What was that for? Tough guys like you usually leave their blood all over this forest. Don't get too cocky, boy. Even Jounin don't like this forest. That's idiotic. Why would you put a bunch of kids in that kind of place? He took a step towards the purple-haired woman. Naruto was daring, if anything. That was his most redeeming quality. He never gave up and he never backed down. You're sadistic. The only reply he received was her shrill laughter. She turned away from him and regarded the group with a grin. It wasn't the usual grin any of their teachers held. No, it was lustful, for blood. This is what we like to call the forest of death. Kiba gasped. He was unable to speak without sounding slightly taken aback. This whole place gives me the creeps. It should. Anko's voice turned to a cold amusement. It should. It's called the Forest of Death for a reason, and you're going to find out why. Hinata wasn't so sure she wanted to take the exams anymore. Not with the poisonous plants and deadly animals. Plus, you were supposed to kill other genin? No thanks. She slunk back, away from the crowd of older genin, with her waver in hand, and went over to the tree where she spotted Haku's blue shirt. She was comfortable around the taller Kanochi if anything else. Hinata took a long deep breath, and as quietly as she could, she took a spot in the circle. Kuni, Haku, and Naruto. Those three would make her feel better about her decision, no doubt. It was all Hinata could do not to burst into tears. What if she had to fight them? "Hi, Hinata," Naruto said. His paper, which was pushed against the tree, had his sloppy signature on it. She didn't have much time to look at the signature, as he folded the form and handed it to Haku. Hinata could guess why the brunette was holding on to the form. Naruto would most likely lose it. "Good morning," she nodded. Her voice sounded much more confident than she really felt. Surprised her. Naruto beamed. He was excited. He bounced from one foot to the other, and eyes kept trailing back to the booth where their papers would be turned in at. "Are you ready?" Before Hinata had time to even think of expressing her worries to the blonde and company, a deeper voice came from behind her. "Have you signed your waiver yet?" She shook her head. I didn't bring a pencil. Sorry, Kiba." Her eyes once again fell on her shoes as she apologized. She really didn't want to sign this paper, but she couldn't destroy the chances of her teammates. "Here, I have one." Hinata took the pen and put her signature of the paper. It was the exact opposite of Naruto's. His was sloppy and all over the place, while hers was delicate and swirly. It was almost well enough to be a script writer. When Hinata went to hand the pen back, an idea struck her. "Why don't we team up? I mean, we'll have a better chance at getting through the forest and getting scrolls." She ducked her head, cheeks tinting pink. "If you don't want to, it's fine. I just thought that maybe it would be helpful to have someone helping." The longer the spoke, the smaller her voice became. Kiba and Shino shared a look, and both mulled over the option for a few moments before accepting. Haku, who was waiting patiently before, brought attention to herself by saying, "That's a brilliant idea, Hinata. Let's go get our scrolls. After we're in the forest, let's find each other. You can find us with your bloodlines." Shino spoke. "That is not a bad idea. It is rather intelligent to work together and overcome the idea that this presents to pit everyone against each other." Hinata could see Naruto shudder. He was staring at Shino and watching with utter horror as Bug crawled freely along his skin and jacket. She zoned out of a moment, staring at the blonde, and then was whisked away by her companions. Thus the two groups went to get their scrolls and line up at the gates. Team 8 was sent to gate 34 while Naruto, Haku, and Kaneko went to gate 45. Half an hour later the horns began blowing, letting people enter the dangerous forest, one team at a time. Team 8 stood still for the third sets of blows, and then the gate opened. The Hinata could think of was, "Let the games begin."